inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. Sad to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. Sad to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark. A hunger like no other. Running on instinct. What's this creature? Always inside of me. The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. Sad to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. Sad to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. You better hope so too. You better hope so too.
Who's holding my hand in the darkness? Seeing ghosts down the hallway. There's a presence, bedroom shadows, cloaked and haunting me. Cold hand touching me. Fear overwhelming me. Tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes. A breath on my neck. Floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on. I wake up paralyzed.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. and unfortunately, this is Super Bowl Sunday, so we got to compete with the mighty Super Bowl.
The great Chiefs and Eagles
The stupid bowl. Yeah, what a rivalry. They have the Chiefs and the Eagles because they've met in the Super Bowl before, so they're meeting again. Oh, boy. What fun. So if you're an Eagles fan or a Chiefs fan, you're definitely going to be glued to the TV.
To watch that bombshell.
Watching that riveting show. The circus. I gave up on the NFL, man. This is too
Corrupt.
Too stupid. And yeah, it's too corrupt. It's too stupid.
Yeah.
I'll take the bread, though. I don't care so much for the circuses.
I'll tell you this.
I'm hungry.
Switching gears up here a little bit, waiting for some people to get in. The XRP is going through the roof right now. And if you're not on board with XRP, I'm just throwing a stock. Well, it's not stock.
Crypto.
It's a crypto tip, but I would join before it hits $3. The banks in Japan are rolling it over. I believe the Bank of Madrid has already decided. There's a few others in Europe that are doing it. You would have 5 pivotal places in Asia that would be very important to look at. That'd be Tokyo, Japan, of course, and of course Beijing and China, Seoul and Korea, and of course Taiwan, and then of course the Bank of Singapore. If they go XRP, and then you have Madrid, you have Berlin, London. If they go XRP, then that's going to become the crypto medium of exchange. So it's something to think about. I mean, if you want to invest and you don't hedge against inflation, gold, silver. Silver, you can buy it in coin or you can buy it in bullion. I buy gold in bullion, and I wear it. It is a hedge against inflation. Although I'm broke as hell right now. Okay, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm broke. I mean, shit. But Tara Turner, I want to thank you for sending us a care package. That thing got lost.
Yeah.
It was up there at the annex,
Postal annex.
and we didn't get it for a long time. And then they gave it to us, and then when we moved, it sat amongst a bunch of boxes. So we opened it a few days ago. We were Thursday, and we were like, "Crap! Holy crap!" Or not Thursday. I'm sorry, Friday night after the show, we opened it, and we were shocked at how much nice things you sent us. That was an incredibly generous gift.
Yeah, thank you for that.
We really appreciate that. I don't want you to think that we didn't notice. We just did we had this box sitting there, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, you just asked me to open it up.
Yeah, I was like, "Open that box up." So Tony went and got the crowbar, and we're like, the nails pop out, all dramatic, and and then we
the smoke.
we're like, "What in the heck?" And you hear. And I was like, "Oh, great!"
I heard a ghastly voice say, "Finally."
Another curse.
And we fed it, and there was this creature inside, and we fed it this really obnoxious lady that just went around telling everyone to call her Billy. It looked like this.
Oh, I was trying to figure out who you were talking about. You're talking about
Let's call me Billy. Everyone does.
Creep Show.
Yeah.
Creep Show.
So that was good. She was annoying. We got her out of the way.
She was always drinking.
Yeah.
So the stupid bowl is going on right now. Let's see what's happening here. 34-0. The green team. The green team with the little wings on their helmets. They are winning against the Kansas City Cheaters.
At least there's Christmas colors in the Super Bowl.
I got to tell you, man, I am a devout Eagle hater, and I used to really like the Chiefs. But after what the league has done this year and last year, it's just ridiculous. You can't just pick a team up and carry them into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because now look at what's happening. The Eagles did the right thing, though, because if you didn't just come out and whoop the hell out of them, then there was a chance that the refs were going to be able to interfere. They already did. I saw one play, and it was a replay. And I watched the replay at halftime. I didn't watch the halftime, whatever. It was a little nugget that somebody had on Facebook, and it was a blatant call. Just offensive pass interference. You're like, come on, dude. I mean, enough is enough of this shit. All right. So I hope the Eagles win 59-0 for 59 Super Bowl. So I wonder if that's true. No one.
Yeah, I
No
was
one
just
says
thinking
that
that.
is interesting. Oh, and say hi, Tony. You haven't been here in a while.
Hey, everybody. Hoping we all look good. We all got haircuts, so
Yeah, we did.
we all decided to clean up
Yeah,
a
we were
bit.
looking shaggy.
Yeah, everybody got a haircut, man. The whole house, everybody.
We were all sick, so we couldn't get one for
Yeah,
a
we
long
couldn't
time.
get one,
Yeah.
and so Scorpion's on post, and he's like, "I need a haircut. Like, you need more. You need a facelift, man." You see where they're at? I don't even know where they're at. See if they're coming, or he's watching the Super. He's probably just
Yeah.
just ridiculous enough to be watching that stupid game. Whatever, man. Whatever you choose to do, man. Whatever makes you choo-choo run, man. If you want to watch a game and watch us on a replay. Here's a bit of news. We have 50 different whatever that have been flagged. 50 episodes of our show have been targeted. Pretty sure we know who did it. I mean, we know that there's 3 other channels out there that hate our
Oh,
guts.
no, it's a big mystery.
And so they've gone out. You know who they are. If you're in PRT News, you've seen the post, or you might be a friend of me on Facebook. They've targeted us, and now YouTube has demonetized a couple of our episodes. Whoopie-doo. We have like 700 episodes.
Well, we got like almost all of them monetized back again.
Yeah,
so
but we got
didn't
them
work.
back, and so except for 1 or 2. But we could not for the life of us figure out what it was that YouTube was upset about for those 2 in particular. I don't know, because they reported like 50 different episodes. At least that's what YouTube has shown us that they're looking at. And we went through and we fine-tooth combed a couple of them. Funny thing though, they absolutely do. They watch every bit of, like right now while we're talking here, they're stalking us. They're watching us. They're not watching the Super Bowl. They're looking at us.
Spitting tobacco juice while watching us.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. You're sitting there looking at that and you're going like, this is crazy, man. I mean, so folks, but the thing is, those channels will sit there, one in particular, and they will absolutely derangement syndrome that they have. They will bitch about us for the whole episode, and they'll slander us and complain and slander. So if you're so inclined and you think that they are out of line for what they're doing, then report them. Now, I would not come to you and do what they do. I'm not going to mass report their videos other than the ones that are slandering me. Now, if they make one about ghosts and goblins and whatever, throwing rocks at Bigfoot, I don't agree with that. They're fakeness, but it's whatever you want to do. And so I don't do what you do. I'm addressing you, okay? It's hilarious that you even keep trying. I'm telling you, man, if you watch Monty Python, they're those guys that run up and they hit the wall with the swords and then they run back. We're a castle, okay? And you're hitting us with swords and then you're running back, and it's just hilarious. So you're not even really hurting me, but you're making other people that work on the show, they're having to go, and it's a pain in the ass for them. I feel bad for them. Me personally, I don't deal with it. I don't do any of this stuff. I just come and I do. My job is to memorize and repeat and, make it sound good, because people give me stories all the time. They do. You know why? Because my show is better than yours. I can sit here and say that. I can honestly say that. And again, tonight, I will prove why my show is better than yours and why people come to us and they don't go to you. So you can only join up with crazy people with nutty names. Have you seen the names of these people? I'm going to address one of them in particular. You sent me some message. Let me tell you something, boy. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. Go preach whatever it is that you're preaching, teaching, whatever. It's none of your business what I do or don't do. But I'll show you something. You wanted to come as an accuser for your buddy Martin. Well, here it is. Is this what you're talking about? Is that it? Is that the Leviathan right there? See, take a good look, folks. This is what they're saying that's making lying roofer claim that I'm worshiping the Leviathan. This is what he's talking about right here.
That's what I've been saying. They're so stupid. They don't know the difference between a Leviathan cross and a Sailor's cross.
So there's one idiot over there, and I'm waiting people to get in here, or I wouldn't even be talking about it. But he messages me out of the blue with some fake profile. I know it's fake. I can tell. It's one of them. It's one of them. Probably Roofer himself or the Ike. It's probably you. And you come at me and you're telling me, show me proof of your Leviathan. Proof of what? What are you talking about? You sound like a crazy person. That whole den of serpents over there. You're a bunch of crazy people. Why would I care? Huh? Why? But if in consideration of your insanity, I'll show you. Here's the other one. Here's the other Sailor's Cross. The sailors use these. That's it. So that's the only thing I can think of. There's your Leviathan. Maybe it's this. I don't know what the hell. But I don't melt any of my gold down. Okay? I don't need to. And I haven't sold any. Exactly, Joanne. Jackass troll nuts. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So go keep reporting us. You got us, I think, one video. And it was a good one. It was one that had a lot of views and a lot of people. And that one it didn't get demonetized officially. I think it wasn't suitable for all advertisers. Like I said, I can't figure it out other than I said something about the former president. Now, here's the key, folks. These insane people over there, the insane clown posse over there, okay, they claim to be big Christians, big supporters of free speech, and big supporters of everything that's, about the new guy. But yet they're doing this. You're acting exactly like that other side. That's what you're acting like. You're trying to limit our free speech, our freedom of speech. There's shows we didn't say nothing about anybody. We just did our show and you reported it. You had a mass reporting campaign going on. That's what you've done, folks. But go back if you feel so inclined and just look at the headlines. You don't got to watch their trash channel because that's how they get views, is by you. So I'm not going to mention them by name. I'm not going to say their real names, anything like that. But you'll figure it out. And they need to be reported because they actually sit there for the entire show and they slander us. They even use voice recordings of me, which I'd have nothing to hide. I don't give a crap, dude. The problem with one of these individuals, and I'll just go ahead and say it now so we don't waste any time when the show's getting going here, is that he did something really naughty. He's did a lot of naughty things, but one in particular he's really ashamed of. Now, she's ashamed of one, but not the other. That's so weird. And it's so creepy. So it's okay to have this relative, but not that relative. You're okay with that? You're a sicko, dude. You're a sick individual. And you have caused nothing but strife in many, many people's lives. All I can say is I'm glad I'm me, because when I die, I'm not worried about it. I know you when you die. If you, they say evil lives forever, so who knows? Yeah, someone knocked, but there's nobody there. So they're talking about true evil and something happens. Somebody just knocked. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it. I know that you will have to stand in judgment for all that you've done. All your sins will be laid bare. You're a disgusting, sick man, and you run around with sick, disgusting people. You have a bunch of lying reprobates that are on your team, and you can't even get along with them because you really don't like them. And then you have this crazy roofer who turns out he was actually a police officer. Can you believe that? This is a grown man in his 60s who wastes every minute of his life attacking us and talking about us. A grown man who goes door to door literally on Facebook, goes from person to person and messages them in the middle of the night, calls them and tell, because there's a passel of them who've told me the stuff that you've said. You're crazy. You're out of your damn mind. Like Woody Harrelson, do you know how effing crazy you are? Do you even know? You have no clue, do you? When you look in the mirror, do you think, damn, I'm a sane man? You big, tall, goofy, dopey ass. And you're going to respond to this because you can't help yourself. Your big, fat fingers will be typing as fast as they can on your phone. You're a weird ass dude, man. You're a weird guy. Very weird. To take so much interest in another grown man's life. And my big sin, I didn't pay enough attention to these people. I didn't give them enough attention. Like I have time to give you attention. Why don't you really spend time with your wife that you claim is so pious and awesome? If my wife was, in that situation, I would have like stopped everything and just focused on her. You waste your time. You attack my wife and my family relentlessly. In fact, I'll do a reenactment. Here it is right here, folks. Oh, yeah. Hey, let me tell you about the cult of hate, Josh Turner hate. Yeah. Imagine nasty shit dribbling down my mouth.
Tobacco spit.
Tobacco juice. Now, let's not take anything away from Ike, because Ike looks like the Penguin. He thinks he's the Joker, but you look like the Penguin.
Except the black stuff from his mouth isn't tobacco juice.
Yeah, it's just
grime.
Grime. Well, they both have grime. In fact, well, I don't want to do it on the show, but I have a funny thing that somebody sent me, made me think about that. So, what we got is a guy who worships Leviathan. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what he's doing. Yeah. Taters, biscuits, and mustard. That's you. Now, here are the people that he talks to. They're like, some of them are stupid, but most of them just kind of rejected him. And they're like, what? Why are you calling me at 2 a.m. to tell me about this guy? What in the hell are you talking about? Why do I give a F about Josh Turner's life? And why do you? Well, you see, I'm fighting a great evil. I'm a defender of God. He tried to say that we were from the Anunnakis, and that I was, and so I'm really close to God, and God made me specifically to be like Him. Specifically the God of the Old Testament. That's who I worship, and I want to go around and tell everybody they need to do something. Okay. Who in their right mind is going to sit there and go, it's 2 a.m., let's talk about the Anunnakis. Let's talk about Josh Turner. And then you get mad at these people and you start attacking them publicly because they don't go along with your bullshit. You start talking and ranting and raving in people's chats about owning guns and all this other crazy, crazy shit. Like Woody Harrelson, do you have any idea how crazy you are? Like, do you really know? Can any one of y'all look in the mirror and go, I'm a sane individual? My life is devoted to hating this guy and his family. You have a million reasons and no reasons, because none of your reasons pan out unless you're talking to other crazy people.
Unless you're making them up yourself.
Well, they've managed to find each other, which is just, it blows my mind that they have managed to find each other in this galaxy.
Well, they just follow their nose and they all
Turds in a
terrible.
dumpster roll together.
It's unbelievable. And then they want to talk about, well, this stuff should have stayed between two adults. You just blabbed it out for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree. We should have.
And then they tell people, well, it happened under his roof. Who gives a shit?
What business is that of yours?
You made it a point to tell me. And I was supposed to react, what was I supposed to do? Exactly, Madeline. Bunch of perverts. These people are a bunch of weirdo perverts. You sit around and you attack a man and his family relentlessly. It's unbelievable. You know, years ago when we first got into this, started doing this, my brother made that point. He was like, he said, there's a lot of crazy people out there that do this. He was watching these things and I was collecting stories, but he was watching these shows more than before I was. And I was like, I thought I could do this. And I stand corrected by him because I thought that I could join, this community and bring people together. Boy, was I wrong. Now, I did bring a lot of people together, but I also brought a lot of people that hate because they wanted to be the ones that brought people together. I don't give a shit who takes credit for it. It needs to be done. And we're not going to get anywhere in this field if we don't. Juan Arturo Amada, what did you got there? He says, picked up another paranormal story from an Iraqi truck. Ah. Wow. I got to get that one. Thank you for that. You're really, thank you for helping. There's a lot of people doing what he's doing. And I think now most of these really hardcore stories we're getting are from people who don't really watch a show, but the watchers of the show actually get these people to message us. So that's cool. Like this guy we're talking about tonight, it came from someone else, but I was able to get in touch with him. He's watching the Super Bowl tonight, or he's at a Super Bowl party. So I think your point, Anthony, you said before the show, we're not going to get a huge crowd because of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because even if people aren't watching it, they're at a party.
Mm-hmm.
They're it's doing like whatever. 36-7.
Yeah. 36-7.
Oh, they scored.
Yeah. What Scorpion said, he goes, they attached. What did he say?
I think he meant to say attacked.
You got to type it all out, man. You're typing fast there. They attacked and we gave in thinking they just wanted us to stop from putting out content. But no, that wasn't enough. They kept attacking, so we came back for y'all. Well, not necessarily true, but there's a PRT prayer group. Not necessarily true, but sort of. It did influence us. I can say that. But what happened specifically was that we were supposed to have, we were going to go on Abe's show, and he couldn't, the technology wasn't working, doing what it does. And so we ended up doing it on our channel. I didn't want to disappoint him. And here we are. God has his way of doing things. If he wanted it gone, it would be gone. And his will be done one way or the other. And if I were to leave, it doesn't mean that you won. Doesn't mean anything. Because you will never be the reason that I leave the air. Never. You will never be the reason. We're not leaving again because of you and your nonsense. It's never going to happen. So you can just stop with your Leviathanging. Here it is, right here. They got the dumbest names too. If you've ever looked, I don't know if people really bother to look at these people, but the screenshots of the things that are posted over there, most of it's anonymous. But their obsession with preaching and all this other weird, y'all are insane. You're all a bunch of crazy people hiding behind profiles. Y'all have 1 million profiles each. I bet you there's only really 30 people in that group. Maybe not even that, maybe 20. And the rest is all them with fake profiles. And the leader in that group, the maniac that keeps reporting us, I know what you do. You just go up there and you post anonymously and you attack me, you attack Bart, and you attack everybody. A guy that was one of my best friends in this field, and they managed to snooker him. But he wanted to be, or he wouldn't have been.
Weak-minded.
He's not stupid. I wouldn't have hung out with him and been his friend for as long as I did. But now you see them attacking, right? Because they always resented you for being my friend. And what is your buddy, the roofer, doing? What is he doing?
He's not defending you.
He's not defending you, and he's not left that group. He used you. They all did. I forgive you. I won't say, hey, this is my brother anymore, but I'm not going to attack you. I think that you've been misled and you're too proud to come out and say it. I think you'll continue to try to bash me because I think that that's That's just your pride. And that's okay. Do what you got to do. I forgive you. It's not my circus anymore, dude. I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on because we don't even have 300 people in here right now. But hey, Rita Burnett and Jason Bland, Valerie Brand, JFA, the usual suspects. Yep, T-Bone hit the nail on the head. Forgiveness is everything, bro. It is. I forgive you. I forgive you for the things you said about me. It's hard to forgive you for the things you said about my wife and trying to build up a conspiracy against me. It's kind of hard. And some of the things you did were way over the top. But when a man thinks he's been wronged, this is how they react. I hope others can forgive me for my deception, for being deceived. I'll say one publicly. I've already said it before, but I'll say it again. Jessica Jones. We weren't enemies, Jessica. These crazy people did what they did and deceived me into thinking it was you that was attacking us. Now, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. But we should have talked it out. You know, that's all I'm going to say. There's others too that I was deceived into thinking that were, attacking us. Because at the time we had no idea that people would be this vile and deceptive.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't run around using fake profiles. We still don't. But they do. That's what they do. With no fear, with impunity. They post anonymously all the time, saying the most wicked and vile things that comes to their mind. You imagine being that way. Just whatever evil thing comes into your mind, you go and fart it out on. It's unbelievable. I can't imagine that. Then you sit back and you tell everybody, "Oh, my channel is imploding because of them. All of my personal problems are because of this other people's channel." Nothing is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Everything came because of this other guy. There's another guy that you attacked. That's what it was. You attacked them and you attacked them and you attacked them. And you have all these enemies in your rear because you've just blazed a trail of destruction with your whole life. This isn't aimed at just one of y'all. This is the whole pack of you. There's varying levels of crazy and evil over there mixed up together. I'm not going to say the person's name, man. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And there's not just one. There's a little group of them, but they are doing what they do. If you know who I'm talking about, you know that he's attacked me relentlessly on his show over and over and over again. Just go look at the headlines. You don't got to open it up and look and give him any views. Just go look. And you'll know. And if you want to go and listen, you'll give him views, but you'll know what he's doing. He's attacking. And this has gotten ridiculous. And now I have to say something because they've mass reported us and they've messed up our sub growth. YouTube's looking at us like, oh, we're doing something wrong. No, these people are nuts. Wake up. There's a bazillion of these fake accounts and they're just using them to mass report us. They attack each other too. It's unbelievable. But that's not a surprise. When people do the things that they do, they're going to attack. So there you go. Anyways, they're a small minority in this community, but they're very vocal. And a small group of lunatics can do damage. And it's just stressful and it's tiring. I'm tired. Anthony's tired. Nellie's tired. Tony's tired. We're all tired.
Abe's tired.
Abe's tired. Madeline's tired. I mean, we're all tired. We're tired of being attacked. We're tired of being messed with. We want to be left alone. Why don't you stop? Focus on your channel before you destroy what's left of your miserable life. Wouldn't it be better to not have so many enemies? So that's what's going on. So anyways, enough. We're going to get to the show here. We got over 300 now. Let's do it. You guys remember we were talking about something the other day. On Friday, we had Nick Valente on. Yes, he showed up. I thought he wasn't going to talk to me, right? Yeah. More ridiculousness, more lies, more corruption from these people. They were spreading a rumor that he didn't want to talk to me. Yeah, dude, whatever. I talk to Gal all the time. These people are my friends. Okay. You're not going to stop us. If I do stop for health reasons or whatever it has, you're not going to call. You're not going to do it. All right. So good luck with the mass reporting. You managed to get one that gave us limited ads. One out of the 50 that you mass reported. I'm sure there's more that they're reporting. It's not just those.
We're probably doing it right now.
They're doing it as we speak.
It's not going to mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. I'm sure if YouTube looks at our channel and they look at yours, they're going to go, wow, these people have pretty good content. Look, what are these people doing? Ooh, what is that? Roaches? What in the hell is going on over there? And don't private message me anymore, Ike, all right? I don't want to speak to you. I have nothing to say to you. I'm saying this publicly to stop talking about me. Stop messaging me. I don't care. Your little fake whatever. You're always talking about stuff's going to come out. It is. And it's going to look real bad for you and all your little cohorts.
It's going to come out for you in court.
I don't like you. I don't care about you. I don't care what happens to you. I don't give a damn about your crusades. I really have no vested interest in you one way or the other. I don't even hate you. It takes energy to hate people. You and lying roofer and all your little pack of goofballs. Very confused people. I don't feel anything for you one way or the other. How about that? I don't hate you. I'm not latching on to hate. I don't even care. I'm just tired. Tired of the madness. And you should be too. All this evidence you have, you can stop sending your friends over there to try to get evidence from me too, because why don't you just stop? Don't mess with me anymore. Stop messaging me. I got nothing to say to any of you. I got no dialogue. I want to just say it right now. So enjoy your crazy. All right. So anyways, we were contacted by somebody and we told the story. We talked about it a little bit on Friday with Nick. And then we got into this guy, Lucas, who messaged us. Now we have a few stories we're going to talk about. So we thought we'd do a little bit of Ghost and Dogman, and what better way than to start off with those two things are together in this same story. This is a trip. This one's a real trip. And I'll say this. The first thing that happened to them was when he was a kid and he lived in this one particular neighborhood in Round Rock. His neighbors saw a lechuza. Well, that's the only way we can describe it, possibly, a lechuza. That is like this harpy-looking witch creature in Mexican folklore. Now, it's folklore, but I'd say if I put a number on it, I'd say 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5 Mexicans have seen this thing. Right. Also, if your name is not in green, join the memberships. Your name could be in green because we're doing the hoodie giveaway tonight, and we're going to be mailing off probably Tuesday. But yeah, and then we'll have Tuesday's show is going to be dropped. It's going to be with Monica Rollins, and it's really that's going to be interesting. Real quick, I'm going to tell you about that real quick. You're going to want to hear it because it's just how I interview people. It's like how when I get the stories from people, how it goes. I talk to people just like that. And so we didn't cut out a lot of it. We decided to leave it in there. So there's 1, 2, 3 episodes, right?
Mhm.
And it starts on with Monica. It starts on Tuesday. So we're going to drop that, and then there's going to be another one the next week and the following week. And I think you're going to like it. If you're a hardcore listener, you really like it, you'll like it because it's the interviews. It's how I talk to people. When I talk to them, that's how I do. And so we just rolled and just had a conversation. And it just seemed like, it just flowed. And she talked a little bit about her personal life and tragedy and heartache. And it's raw. And it's real. This is how I talk to people, especially my friends and people, my colleagues, but also listeners and guests and people that I've had on the show and stuff. And this guy, he was no different. Me and him hit it off and we talked, and he, like I said, I think he's watching the Super Bowl. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But he said, that he was going to be checking the show out. I told him I'd be talking about it tonight. So, Lucas, if you're listening, here is what transpired with him. When he was a kid, his mom, she was a substitute school teacher, and his aunt, and they all worked together. And they worked at different schools, around the county. He he grew up in Round Rock, but he went to a private school for a little while, and then he went to a public school. So we had that in common, and we talked, and he just kind of opened up. The building where he went to school when he was little, he claims, was haunted. Now, this is important because not only did his mother see maybe Lechusa, maybe the Mothman type creature one time fly over her vehicle. The thing that happened to him when he was a kid, he was with a group of students and they were driving for a field trip, and they had this big giant black thing fly over their van. He said there was probably like 15 kids, and they all were just, in the van, and they saw this thing. And that was about 2 months after his mother, her best friend that lived, or not best friend, but their neighbors, good friends, saw this Lechusa looking thing that was sitting on a bench. We talked about that on Wednesday. So it's a really weird thing that happened to this guy. And I got to say, when you talk to this dude, he's very believable. He's a very likable guy. And I think he's kind of like me. He's still a kid at heart. I'm about 10 years older than him, so I don't relate to everything that he was, talking about, but he grew up. He goes, I remember cartoons on Saturday, things like that, That was like something that we looked to where finally when these Cartoon Network and all these other shows came, all these cartoons, like when you grew up, Tony, you didn't have Saturday cartoons, did you?
Yeah, I did. I mean,
you had Saturday cartoons?
we had Saturday morning cartoons.
You did, but you're several years older than Tony. Right?
No, I did. I used to love staying on the weekend. I think because there were so many other things, like, video games or a lot more electronic, it wasn't as prevalent, but definitely in my household, Saturday night cartoons was a favorite, especially.
I thought it was already over by the time you were a kid.
No, it's still going.
Wow, because it is.
I would watch like Pokemon. I think like Yu-Gi-Oh had a couple shows, but I think for me, like the night shows were more enjoyable. So I was always like staying up. So I think I was usually asleep during the morning.
I grew up with Cartoon Network too, so like we didn't have to wait till Saturday morning.
Mm.
Yeah, I would like stay up and watch like Toonami and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So then I guess what you was still going, but maybe it was when your sister was little.
Yeah, she didn't watch anything.
Because I don't remember going. I remember being over on Saturdays and y'all not watching Saturday cartoons. So maybe it was really her, but you're a lot older than her.
Mm-hmm.
You're older than her. Exactly how older Anthony is than his sister.
7 years.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Y'all both have that 7 years. So here's what ends up happening. He's sitting there watching Saturday cartoons with his sister, his brother and his sister. And in their house, they didn't believe that there was anything. But his sister did. But him and his brother didn't believe it. They had only been living there a while. They had bought this land, and they had what do you call it? Not a mobile home. What's it called? A manufactured home put on there. And it was a nice big one, and it was new. And he said it was new to us. So it was like, a big house to us. It wasn't, we were just kids. We didn't know it was big, He's like, and it was a 4-bedroom. It was a 4-bedroom model home, whatever. And he said, I was watching cartoons, Saturday cartoons. He goes, and we hear a knock on the door. He's like, and my sister, she was very intuitive. And she said, don't answer the door. And he goes, I don't know why. She just blurted out. She said, there's a monster outside. He's like, it's like 8 a.m. And I'm like, shut up. You're scaring Justin. That's his little brother. He don't care. Like, he's just like, whatever. And he gets up. He goes, I'm in my pajamas. You know, I'm in my brother's little bitty. He's the baby. He's like, and my sister, you know, she's annoying. He's like, he says it with fervor even now, you know. And it's funny because, you know, Luke gets up. He goes to the door. He said, I'm not going to lie. I opened the door, and this gust of wind blew, and the door just flew open out of my hand. He goes, and I look outside, and there's like a couple kids out there running around in the yard, in the neighbor's yard. And he's like, there's people out there doing stuff. There was no ghosts. There were no monsters. He's like, so I go and I sit back down. I thought, well, this is weird. This is weird. But I don't think that it's a monster. He's like, and then about 11 a.m. that morning, he goes, I remember. He's like, I got up to go to the restroom. He's like, and I had a bowl of cereal and I left it sitting there. He goes, and I could hear my brother in his room playing, making noises and shit. He was always making these little like noises. He's like, it was annoying. He couldn't just play with his toys. He had to be like, you know, kids do that. And he says, when I came back out, my bowl of cereal was poured all over the couch. He's like, you don't know how pissed I was. I was very angry. He's like, I thought one of these dumbasses took my cereal and poured it out everywhere. And now I got to tell mom. He's like, my dad was at work. He's like, and now he goes, I got to tell my mother. And my mom was sleeping in. She had worked all week. She was tired. And she had a condition. She had lupus. So my mother got tired, got sick, and she worked up until her death. So he ran in there to get some paper towels and clean it up, whatever. His mother comes out of her room. She's not doing too good. And he goes, I remember she'd have like these weeks where she was just really not doing well. He goes, and she just looked really bad. And he goes, my mother was always very gentle, very sweet. And he said she came out and she was like, what's going on, Luke? And he didn't want to tell her, like, one of the other kids had just poured something. He said, I wasn't one of those kids that was like, I'm going to tell on you, because I didn't want to stress my mother out. He's like, at that age, I was having to take care of the family. He goes, I would get up in the weekends and make breakfast. He goes, I was that kid. I had to do those things. He was like, it wasn't a matter of like, oh, I just want to be a kid. He's like, I would cut the grass. And he goes, in that day, noon, I had to go in the back, cut the grass. He goes, it wasn't that simple. We had 0.35 acres. So it was big.
Yeah.
He goes, and all we had was a push mower.
That's no fun.
I know, because my dad and stepmom used to have 2 acres and I had to mow it. And
Chad had that half acre.
Yeah.
Mow it.
so
Yeah.
somebody didn't want to let me use the regular mower. I had to use the push mower just because they thought it was cute, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, I know how it is. So they had to go. And he had to cut the grass. He goes, and so that day my dad was coming home at like 4 p.m. So I wanted to be, have it ready, have it done. So I said, Mama, I'm going to go and I'm going to cut the grass. Don't worry about it. And she's like, what happened to the couch? She saw it. He said, one of the kids must have spilled something. I'm going to clean it up. He didn't want to upset her. And she's like, Luke, I don't feel good. But I'm going to tell you this. Don't lie to me. So I know you're lying. You're covering. Did you spill it? He says, no, I didn't, Mom. He goes, and I think it was, and I don't say his sister's real name. I'll call her. I don't have permission to. She has a very sensitive job. What would we call her? I don't know. Jay. Okay. Jenny, whatever. So Jenny, she decides that, she's going to come out of the room and start arguing. She's like, I know you're trying to say that I did that. I didn't do that. I've been in my room, blah, 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 arguing. And then she stresses her mother out when she does this. So she tells her, she's like, Mom, he's lying. He's the only one that's been out here. And he's like, here we go. I didn't do this. He's like, while we're arguing back and forth, my little brother sticks his head out the door, and then I hear him yell, and then the door slams to his room. He's like, we all stopped and we hear Justin in there crying, screaming, like something was attacking him, grabbing him, whatever. He's like, me and my sister stop arguing. We look at each other and he's like, I kind of smacked her arm like, hey, and then she smacked me back because she always had to have the last word. He's like, she's still that way. She has to have her way, whatever, so they go down the hallway. He's like, and my little brother is in the room. My mother is trying to open the door frantically and it's not working. The door will not open. The door is closed. He's like, so my mother starts freaking out, screaming, and eventually the door opened. And she said the doorknob got really hot. And she said she walked into the bedroom and the whole bedroom was cold, but it got really hot out in the hallway. I don't know what that is. And then he's laying there on the bed and he's like wrapped up in his blanket and he's struggling to try to get out. So we all go to the bed and we start pulling the blanket off of him to get him off the bed. Mm-hmm. He's like, and I felt something grab my back and pull my shirt and yank me off of the bed, almost out of my pajamas. He's like, I got flung so hard, dude. He goes, my pajamas were like ripped. And my mother turned and was like, what in the hell? He's like, this was about the toward the end of the first week of us living there. We had finally gotten moved in. He's like, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff because from the other house that we had lived in, he's like, we had a sale. Like we had a yard sale. He's like, so this was our new house that we were living in, and our neighbors came over a couple days later, and they had a daughter. He goes, and we became really good friends, and they had a son who was a little bit younger than me. He was in between me and Justin's age, and he said that's when things came together. They started telling them stories about weird things in this neighborhood. This neighborhood has changed drastically. In fact, me and Tony drove through there last night. Yeah. And it is a completely different place now. It's all tract housing. It's just, but back then it wasn't.
It's easy to see how you get lost.
Mm-hmm. It's all changed around. Mm-hmm. But he said, this is way back before, there was what it is now. It looks totally different. All these people moved in the area and he said, dude, that was my introduction to ghosts. He's like, we had a spirit in that house that was malevolent, maniacal, and it did a bunch of crazy stuff. Now I could sit up here and talk about the whole show, just talk about the stuff he told me about growing up in that house. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit up here and just go over all that. Because that would, like I said, take up an entire show. This was in the early 90s. Yeah. So, yeah, because he was born, in the middle of the 80s. And this was early 90s. He was a little kid. He wasn't real old. His brother was barely starting school. And he's like, my brother ended up sleeping with me all the time. And he was a bedwetter. He said he didn't wet the bed till he was like, 10 or 11. But he, at that stage in his life, yeah, he was little. He's a kindergartner. He's peeing in the bed. And he's like, and it was horrible. He's like, but there were things that were happening in that house that I was to the point where I didn't want either one of my siblings sleeping alone. My sister had this habit. She would run and sleep with my mom and dad. And he goes, and my dad got really sick of it and pawned her off on me. He said, look, take care of her. And then she would always try to get up in the middle of the night and run out in defiance, And he said, I never could tell her anything. She just wouldn't listen. And she was very spoiled. Years later, he grows up. He gets married. He has children. We'll come back to this ghost stuff, right? His mother had told him about the Lechusa thing that she had seen, whatever. He didn't personally see it, but the kids next door said, yeah, his mother had an incident with a friend that was a nurse where they saw this thing go over their vehicle when they were by the railroad tracks. He said, years later, my daughter, she plays volleyball, right? He's like, her and her little friends, one of her friends that lived on the other side of town played volleyball too with her. He's like, and they had a big, nice house. He's like, we lived in a middle-class neighborhood. They lived in an upper middle-class neighborhood. And he's like, they came from money. They had money. And he said, and they had a full-on volleyball deal in the backyard. So the girls would go over there to practice and play. And he said there were 4 of them all together. He's like, and one of them, he goes, this was when they were teenagers. This is about when the nightmare began with this other being. She was a real young. She was like a freshman, whatever. But one of them had their license. She was a 16-year-old. And she said, let's go to the store. He's like, I wasn't keen on her driving around with other teenage girls. He's like, and in fact, my son ended up in a wreck because of another teenager that drove like shit. That happens. And he said that they went to the store. Well, to go to the store, they had to cross these railroad tracks. And kids are stupid. They do stupid things. And they're like, hey, I heard, right? And this was a legend there too. I didn't know that people were doing this there. I knew they were doing it in my hometown. I knew they did it in San Antonio and a few other places, but I didn't know that Round Rock had that tradition. But they said, if you put your vehicle on the railroad tracks, right, kids will come out that have been killed in train wreck or whatever.
Yeah, you got to put the baby powder on
and
the
they'll
back.
push your car. Yeah. Now, I've had people tell me, one particular researcher, I need to get back on the show. I think he's been on the show. I think it was him that told me this. And correct me if I'm wrong, if it wasn't him. But he's got a group in San Antonio. And I don't want to say it because I don't know if this was him or not. But he said something about he had tried this. I think it was him and a female colleague on their show I watched one day. And they have a channel too. And I'll bring him on one day. He was the guy, I think it was him. He was the one that walked through the portal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember. Like I said, in case I'm wrong, I don't want to say his name, but he was on my show and he has a channel. Like I was looking at it one day and I believe it was them, but they were talking about South San Antonio where there actually was a wreck. I could not, now there was a bus accident, but I didn't find anything about railroad tracks. But if you go to this place in South San Antonio, in my hometown, they used to talk about it too, but I think they got it from that.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you put your vehicle on there, they'll push your vehicle and you can put baby powder or whatever, or flour, and supposedly the handprints will show up. I don't know if that's true. I don't know anything about it. I just know that that's weird. I mean, you know, so there's this weird thing, you know, that people claim. And so they tried to do that. And they sat there on the railroad tracks. And after a few minutes, nothing happened. And one of them had a little bit of she was a little, you know, smarter and said, you know, I think this is a bad idea. She's only 15, bless her heart. She figured it out. Hey, maybe 4 teenage girls shouldn't be sitting on the railroad tracks waiting for, you know, to be unalived. It's probably not a good idea. So what happens? They hear a train. Sorry if that's too loud. Right? They look around. They see a light. Right? They see a light. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's a train. A train is actually coming. The dills started going ding, 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 ding. And they're on the tracks. And guess what? Her friend tries to start her car. It doesn't start. But these aren't stupid kids. You know, after a couple of seconds, they all just got the hell out of the car and they got off. And she's just like, my mom and dad are going to kill me. And her friend, Lucas's daughter, is like, well, better your mom and dad than the train. Because I don't believe your mom and dad are going to kill you. You have a swimming pool. You have a yard that's usually you have a pool. You don't have anything else.
They're just going to take your credit card away.
She has a yard that's big enough to have a volleyball court there. Yeah. So you have a pool and that big yard and a trampoline. I doubt your parents are going to do anything to you. They're going to be glad that little girl's alive, and that's it.
You're going to get a stern talking to.
Now, it wasn't her idea to stop the car. Her other friend there, who they said was affectionately, they called her something. So somebody says some are debunked. Yeah, I'm sure they are. I mean, I don't think they could all be that. So I can say this. The one friend she seems like to be the one that makes really bad decisions in particular. And he's like, my daughter and the other girls, they love this kid too, but she makes really bad decisions. Like she gave all of her credit card information to somebody over the phone and got her. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And this was in her 20s. She wasn't a kid anymore. He's like, so that's the kind of girl she is. I'm not going to say her name. But she was the one. It was her idea. And she's like, I feel terrible, as the train is approaching. She's like, and then they're sitting there talking and they're just staring. They've walked away from the vehicle and they've awaited the inevitable. But then nothing happens. Nothing happens. They didn't even notice while they're talking and kind of like that the train was taking a long time. And the things just kept dinging, whatever. And then they noticed that there was a train there, but it was just sitting there. It wasn't moving. And they kept debating, is it moving? Is it not moving? So they went onto the railroad tracks and they pushed the car off themselves. See, because people don't understand, there is something that happens and it's magnetic and it can actually cause your vehicle to stall, to the electrical, whatever. That's a real phenomenon. Now, it doesn't always happen. The other day, me and Anthony and Nellie were driving through Hutto, and we saw a train coming, and we saw the arms going down, and the arms were like right here, and we saw a car go right up underneath them.
Yep.
No bullshit. And then no BS. And then they ran the red light and just went around everybody.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. And they didn't look like kids. They look like grown-up people doing stupid things.
We're in a hurry.
I better hurry
to
saving someone's life. Risking their own like that.
Thank you for posting that, Lee Tracker E. Hope you're doing good, Ella. So what ends up happening? Nothing. Nothing happens. So a couple days later, not these same girls, but there were 4, but there were 2 different ones. They started telling the other 2 in the back seat. He's like, my daughter's in the front seat. She turns around and starts telling the one girl in the back seat. She goes, you wouldn't believe what happened to us the other day. We were driving through here and there was a train and then it stopped. And then we were able to push her car off and then we got back in. And she was like, there was this whole thing, and the thing just kept dinging, but the arms didn't come down. I didn't know what was going on. It was weird. It was crazy, blah, 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 blah. And then her friend goes, oh my God. And she's like, it's not that big a deal. We're alive. Everything's okay. And she's like, and she's pointing. And the girl driving is like, holy crap, what is that? And there, on the side of the railroad tracks, is this thing. It was standing straight up. It was grayish black, like a smoky gray. It's standing there. And it's looking right at them, and it had red eyes, like dotted eyes, big snout, and the teeth, the mouth was wide open. And they said it looked like, at first, almost like a cartoon, like the big bad wolf. That's how his daughter described it. This isn't far from their neighborhood. This is not even a mile away. And they were headed in that direction, going to her friend's house so they could practice volleyball, play around, whatever. It was the next weekend. He's like, I wasn't aware of the train situation until this story was told. And then I told my daughter, I said, what is wrong with y'all? So I made some calls. And the girl whose idea it was and the girl that was driving, they got in trouble. They did. But they didn't get, but they
got in trouble.
Yeah, they got, do it again, Tony, so you can, trouble. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No credit card for you. You're not going to the mall for a little while.
You're only allowed at the summer house.
Yeah. You want to go and take your friends, I'm going to take away your privilege, your card. All right.
You're not taking the BMW. You're taking a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
No. You're going to have to drive. Ooh, icky poo, the Grand Cherokee. That's like 3 years old. Oh my God. It's not even like.
You think about what you did while you're driving that.
Oh my God.
The butler hasn't even cleaned the
Cherokee.
Cherokee.
Mom and Dad, like you're so evil. Like you're like worse than that werewolf we saw. The werewolf is what we were talking about. Because that's what they said they saw. Was a werewolf. When they looked at it, one of the girls was like so freaked out. She was holding like a drink. They went to Sonic, and they had those drinks, And she's like, she dropped her drink out of the window and pulled her arm in. She's just like, oh my God. Like, that's horrible. Like, I'm just kidding. It fell and it startled this creature because it was staring away from them. And then it looked right at them. And then it got down. When it got down, it didn't like slowly slink down to the ground like people would think. It just went plop.
It's flattened out
like a freaking spider and crawled over well, you've already heard this, Anthony and Tony, but it crawled over the freaking railroad tracks. When they saw that, dude, I mean, like, they started screaming, and the girl that was driving nearly lost control. They got to the other girl's house where they were headed, and they told them what had happened. When they started to compare notes, the one girl's mother, one of the girls that was there already, that was there to practice, the mother was there, and she says, girls, this sounds like something I seen when I was younger. She tried to keep them calm, so she didn't tell them. She just said, look, it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. I saw it when I was younger, but she didn't know that. So they had a little meeting with the parents. There were six couples, 12 people got together to talk about this because 3 of those 12 people, a quarter of them, had seen this thing in that neighborhood. One of them had grown up in that neighborhood, and she just moved a few blocks over into the, and when the new subdivision was built, she moved from the older subdivision, which is still nice. That's where, somebody that we work with lives. It's a very nice place. It's a good place to raise kids. Right? You end up moving, a few blocks away, another newer area, and you don't think there's anything there. But then she said, I saw this thing come through the wall. It looked like a shadow, but it wasn't a shadow. She's like, it was some kind of wolf-headed looking demonic entity. Another one said when he was a kid growing up in that area, that him and some friends were driving around. It was 2, 3 in the morning. Didn't know which, just 2 or 3. 3 o'clock seems to be the witching hour, right? This thing comes up out of the ground. It looks like a blob on the ground, but it was furry. And it looked like it was laying face down because of the way it lifted its head up. The head popped up. Then the body sprang up, and all of a sudden it was this big, wide, hairy creature, but was more akin to like a Bigfoot-looking creature. He don't remember a snout, but he may have been wrong. And then the other person, the lady that was there at the volleyball practice, said, look, she's like, me and my husband, he's a coach. He was a coach. He coached football. She said that I don't know where. I don't know, remember, whatever. And Maggie was her ex. But anyway, still, the girl's dad. She's like, we were living in another place. She's like, it didn't happen here, but it was close by. She's like, and we were driving, and we drove almost into one of these things. She's like, we were dating. We were teenagers, and we were dating. She's like, and my husband, she's like, he's looking at me, he's talking, and she's like, he's got that look in his eye, like I knew he loved me, one of those things. She's like, she goes, I could see in his eyes. He was staring at something, and then he just says, and he swerves, and this thing ran out, and she's like, and I look, and it turns away from the car real fast, and we swerved, almost ran into the other lane on oncoming traffic. It was like 9 o'clock at night. It was dark, but it wasn't that dark. It was early spring. She says, I'll never forget. This thing bolted off into the, She's like, what in the hell was it? She's like, the only thing I could think of was it was a werewolf. She's like, I saw the snout. She's like, my boyfriend at the time, future husband, now ex-husband, as of now, right now, not when she was telling the story, but she's like, my husband, he couldn't believe it. It took him a long time to come to terms with it. But when they had children, he was like, be home before dark. He was real, don't walk around. He found out that they were walking around in the neighborhood. But he got really pissed. He was like, don't do that. Don't do that. What did E say? Parents should listen and believe their kids. Kids can see more spiritual than most adults. Yes, because their pineal gland is not calcified. That's a real thing. When these beings were seen, and they may be the same being, it may be different beings, I don't know. There were hauntings going on in the neighborhood on those houses, the new houses from that subdivision. Every single house in that neighborhood, whether people wanted to admit it or not, and some people didn't, there was something going on. There was chatter going on. The children in the neighborhood were seeing things. So it didn't surprise Lucas when after the girls saw this thing, he said it felt like it had attached itself to my daughter. He said, I'm not lying. He goes, my daughter started having something like akin to a shadow being. He knows now what that is. He didn't at the time. He didn't really know what a shadow being was. But he said that my daughter comes to breakfast and she's like, and we were going to go to San Antonio that day. It was early in the morning. He goes, and my sister, my sister, and my brother, because we're all very close, even though my sister's a pain in the ass. He's like, I love her. I know how that is. And he said she was coming over with her kids. And one of them was having what they call night terrors. They lived across the tracks on the other side. Believe this. Her youngest child was claiming to see something that was trying to talk to him through his window and take him to the railroad tracks. For what? He said it looked like a clown. But he wasn't okay with it. This being, this creature, whatever it was sitting there talking to him through the window, and he couldn't get it to shut up. It would stop when the parents would come in. She goes, but he's like, my sister's husband came into the room one time. The biggest non-believer you'd ever meet. Big time Bible guy, by the rules, whatever. Believed that there was all demons and you shouldn't even entertain it and they won't talk to you or mess with you if you're a good kid, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He walks in and he hears it. And he's like, oh my gosh, what is that? He takes the kid and mom comes home and she's like, because she's got a really good job. She's got a good job. She's got some authority. She comes home. Husband and child are in the bed. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to say the kid's name. I know the kid's name. I'm not going to say it. But he said, kiddo's going to sleep with us tonight. So she's like taking off her shoes, and she's like, why? Well, he's scared. She's like, yeah, we've been over this. And you were the one that didn't want him. And now you're okay with it. And she's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So they go into the kitchen and he's like, look, I heard it. It's real. She's like, yeah, I've been telling you that. I saw a shadow move by itself. And you told me and Lucas, my brother, that we were crazy for seeing ghosts when we were kids. And I told you that the same thing showed up here. You didn't want to believe it, did you? He's like, my sister must have just rang his balls because that's how she is. He's like, but he was annoying. He made fun of us. He goes, we built a go-kart for the boys together. He's like, and he was just laughing at us. So, oh, yeah, sure. Oh, man, be careful. Watch out for the ghost.
That would be annoying.
He wanted to slap this dude. He's a car salesman. I know a lot of cool ones, but I know some douchebaggy ones too.
Usually kind of a red flag.
Yeah. Well, we know some cool ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool with us. I don't know how they treat other people.
They're still salesmen,
but they're still salesmen at the end of the day.
The job.
It's a
is
job.
Not the best.
And not all of them are bad. We've met some few that are really cool people, but this guy, he worked at a really pricey place, and he made good money, and money seemed to be their motivator. But sometimes physical things don't mean anything when you're dealing with this. What does the physical world really mean? I mean, everybody needs money. But when money becomes your main focus, then you lose focus. You lose sight of what's really important. Like friends, family.
Yeah.
Spending time with people.
It's like you're surrounded by noise and it makes you forget what matters.
And then you walk into your son's room to tell him to be quiet and quit. And then you hear him sitting there shaking, because this is what happened, right? He's shaking. And he hears the voice. He walks up to the window, fully expecting there to be something. There's nothing there. Then it stopped. So what does he do? He grabs his son. He goes, okay, we're going to the bedroom. I have a daughter. She comes in there. She starts complaining. She's a few years older than him. She's almost a teenager. She shouldn't be complaining about this stuff. She's 12 years old. But she's like, I'm starting to have issues. Goldie Golderman. Okay, well, see ya. Don't know who you are, but I'm going to...
What is it?
I don't know. Oh, I just... Lola, I'm sorry. I just banned you. I don't even know why I was doing that. Can you unban Lola?
Well, she wasn't banned. She was just timed out. And this Goldie...
No, it says Lola was banned and their comments were removed.
Yeah, but on YouTube, it shows you what really happened.
Sorry about that. If that's what I did, I'm sorry. Goldie Golderman. Never heard of you. Never seen you before. Weird. I don't know, because we can't trust people. We don't know. We don't know what you're up to. But what ended up happening? So these people, they have this. That's why I don't really mess with that. Y'all take care of it. If you think it needs to be done, I don't usually do it. Lola, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that.
She just got timed out.
Yeah,
for
got timed out.
5 minutes.
I timed you out, and I but I erased your comment. I didn't mean to, so I apologize for that. No, she didn't get fired. She's one
collateral damage.
Yeah, collateral damage. Sorry about that. So these people, they're going through this craziness in the neighborhood, and some of them believe it, some of them don't. But there was a meeting between the adults and some of the adults that were the parents of the girls. Now, not all these parents were the same. That some of the boys had friends that had parents that were different, and they went. Some of them went to the same church again. Not all of them. This is not a small town. I think that town now has like 250,000 people or something. At that time, it was about 100,000. I think something like that. It was pretty big. It wasn't a little town. wasn't huge, but it wasn't. Wasn't like Austin, like 1.2 million or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty big place. But that neighborhood, they all knew each other. They were all friends. Some of them had grown up together, not all of them. And she was like, his wife came to him and she was like, I don't want her. I mean, no offense to anybody, but I don't want people, driving my daughter around. I think that I should be driving her. And he's like, and Lucas said, look, at this point, I was like, dude, are we overreacting? Like, are we overreacting? He's like, I didn't think so. He's like, but I could be wrong. He's like, I thought, that we should take precautions, but you got to let the kids be kids. He's like, one of our friends from a neighboring town had lost their son in an accident. Because they never thought it would happen to us. He said that it was a cousin, really. It wasn't a friend. It was a cousin of his wife's, but he goes, it had a very profound effect on her. It was a distant cousin, but still related. And losing a child is very hard. It's one of the worst things you can ever imagine. He's like, and I watched his wife just get destroyed. And then it eventually destroyed their marriage. And the other two kids were left, just in limbo. One of them turned to drugs, and the other one just went, and withdrawn and became suicidal. Didn't happen, thank goodness. He's like, but I didn't want something happening to one of our children. He goes, because whatever was going on here, I believed it was evil. He's like, and then we started having problems at our house. He's like, we lived on the edge of this community. He goes, the people that bought the land next to us, they never really moved in. They came and then they just left, came and left. And he goes, and they were never there. He's like, and then one day there was a for rent sign up there. And then there was a parade of people that rented that property. He goes, our property, we had about a half an acre. And that property was like 3/4 of an, or a quarter of an acre. It was a little longer, a third, basically.
Yeah.
It was a third. So it was a third of an acre. He had a half an acre, and then so on and so forth. The neighborhood was like, not now. It's all tract housing. It's been all, He's like, but there were several of us that lived back in this cove, and there was a dead end right there. He said, so he's like, we ended up everybody in that little area. There were 6 of us, 6 families that lived on that one little area. And he's like, these people that were around us, he goes, they were going through things, but a lot of them didn't want to talk about it, but some of them did. He's like, in particular, our neighbors, the guy that owned the house, his brother came to live with him for a while. He had just gotten out of the military. He was an ex-Marine. He's like, and he was always outside working in the garage. And he goes, I go to talk to him. He goes, and they were remodeling this place. They were turning the garage into like a room. Mm-hmm. And then they were building like a covered parking. And he said, it turned out really cool. He's like, but I'll go over there, and his brother-in-law, his brother is working there. And then his sister's brother was always there helping, and they were both working together. They were carpenters. He's like, and one day he goes, we're sitting there and they're drinking beer. He goes, and they threw me one. It's just typical guy stuff. We're talking about, motorcycles and crap like that. He goes, I wanted one. My wife's like, hell no. I want you alive. He's like, my wife was basing our whole lives on, this happened to so-and-so. Well, this happened to so-and-so. It can happen to us. And I thought, I married a very beautiful worrywart. But I told him, I said, sometimes the worrying is founded. It's not all just trivial.
Especially with motorcycles.
Yeah. And he said, yeah, you're right. So what happens? He says, we start talking, and he goes, and the one guy that was actually staying there, the guy who owned the house, it was him and his wife. They had him staying there. They had 2 kids. He was going through a divorce. Poor guy. He goes, he was just a mess. He's like, we started talking about this stuff that was going on in the neighborhood. People seeing shadows and whatever. And he says, yeah, this whole neighborhood seems to be haunted. He's like, but the neighborhood I used to live in was pretty that way too. He lived in a town, country town, still not a very big place now, not far away from where Tony used to live. It's a couple of towns over. He's like, I lived out there in the country. It's buffering, folks. Sorry about that. He said, I lived out in the country. He goes, and I had some weird stuff happening. My wife claimed to have seen what looked like a mangy, dirty coyote crawl up out of a ditch and stand up like a man. He says that, and he goes, when he said it, I think he half expected me and the other, the wife's brother, or the people that owned that property, to always, people typically, they think that everybody thinks like them. They always think that, right? And when he blurted it out, he kind of looked around. He's like holding this beer bottle and kind of going like, oh, shoot, maybe I just said something stupid. And he goes, no. He's like, no, my daughter recently saw something like that. And he's like, you're kidding me. He goes, no. He goes, dude, I thought my wife was just overreacting. He's like, we had been fighting. He's like, we had smoked something. Not drugs, but, you know, to him, it was drugs, but not, you know, he goes, she was smoking, you know. He's like, and I thought that that's what made her see it. He's like, but she got mad. She was like, no, I was sober. I wasn't using, you know, the devil's lettuce. His wife didn't drink. Him being kind of a redneckish hillbilly guy, like he admitted, he said, yeah, he goes, I thought marijuana is drugs. You smoke marijuana, you go out and you go on a killing spree.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. You smoke just one marijuana's and it can make you murder everyone in the neighborhood.
Especially if you inject the marijuanas.
When you inject the marijuanas into your eyeball, you begin to see things.
Safest ways to freebase it.
That's exactly right. That's when you get really popping high right there. I just made that up, popping high, because that's what that sounds really cool, right?
Fat and stupid and popping fresh.
You burn it all up.
You
And
get
then
hip-hop
tattoo it onto your body.
So
No, you're a dope fiend.
reefer madness. There you go. Your life may depend on it. Little Bobby smoked one marijuana, and now he's dead.
He got stoned by a boulder.
It's over for him, but it won't be for you.
Rock just comes out and crushes him.
But you could go to prison for the rest of your life for being found with a pen, especially in Williamson County back then. You might have.
Yeah.
They'd be like, boy, what are you doing with this marijuana? Don't you want to live? You go to the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church or one of them weird ones? You look like one of them. Get out of here. They take off the sunglasses. They got another pair underneath.
Yeah.
It's just that way. Everybody knows that. You can't escape it.
It's common knowledge.
It's a reefer madness. It takes hold. You're like googly eyes, and you're out looking for your 15th victim.
Just one hit, and you'll
That's
turn
all it
into the
takes.
Martians from
Mars Attacks.
Yeah, Mars Attacks.
So he goes, I thought this, oh my God, that's really bad. His wife was smoking marijuana. That's why she saw that. He goes, and then it just dawned on me. He's like, my daughter saw it. He's like, I said, you know what? Here's the beer. I got to go. He runs back home. He's like, he calls and he's like, I'm not going to say his daughter's name. He's like, where is she? His wife's like, where, who, what? He goes, where is our daughter? And she's like, she's over at such and such house. He goes, whoa, I'm going to go pick her up. He's like, my mind is going, and I'm thinking the reefer madness has taken hold in his brain,
Mhm.
right? And he flies over there.
Literally.
Yeah, he did. He's like invincible. He just takes off.
Yeah.
Omni-Man. He flies over there. In his
Wonder
vehicle.
Man.
Wonder Man. So he flies over there in his vehicle. And he's like, and yes, I had a Mustang that I had restored and I was using it as an excuse to drive fast. Yes. He goes, I go over there, I pick up my daughter. She's always over at this one people's house. I said, this is where it's happening. This is where the reefer madness is happening. He goes, I get her in the car. He's like, I asked her if she's hungry. She said, yeah, we were about to get pizza. And he says, oh, you want pizza? Let's go get pizza. He drives over to this place over there by the school, and they sit down to eat pizza. And she's like, Dad, what's going on? He's like, don't lie to me. You and your friends, when you saw this thing, were you smoking marijuana? And she's like, no. He's like, are you lying? And she's like, no, you can drug test me. He's like, okay. So he did. He drug tested her. And guess what? She was clean. He talked to the other people, the other parents, and they were like, oh my gosh, we should drug test our kids. So they did. Now, it didn't work out for one of them. She claims it was a contact. It was a contact high party, Dad. We went over there and I didn't inhale. I did exactly as Bill Clinton said.
Yeah.
I didn't smoke any of that green corn. But other kids were being really bad, and they were blowing it all in my face, and I breathed it in, unfortunately.
The smoke demon came for me, and I was fighting it off, but
I think he got in through my ears.
I sat on the toilet.
Yeah.
He was on the toilet.
Eventually, I snapped out of it. Not before she went to rehab. But that took care of it. They had a counselor, Matt Foley. He came out.
Are you doing drugs?
Matt came out, and he was like this. He's like, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Foley. I live in a van down by the river. All you little bastards are going to learn today. You're smoking that green corn, and you just fall over dead. That's what happens. And you end up dead down by the river in a van down there dead by the river. Stop your bullshit. You understand?"
Fixing his waistband.
You gotta do that. So, you know, so this guy, they literally get a guy to come and talk to these kids. And I jokingly, I said, "Was it Matt Foley?" He goes, "Who?" I said, "You watch Saturday Night Live?" He goes, "Sure." I said, "Go look up Matt Foley down by the river, Chris Farley, Saturday Night Live." A couple days later, he messages me back. And he sends me another skit from SNL, and we started back and forth skits, whatever. So me and Luke had a good laugh. And it's actually funny because he knows a couple of people that I grew up with. He knew my friend Willie. So yeah, that was funny because his brother, you know, used to work on cars, and he got to know Willie. Willie used to restore cars too. He was a really amazing guy. God rest his soul. Knew a few of my friends. So he says, you know, I totally overreacted. He's like, and if my daughter wasn't doing these things, he's like, maybe this guy's wife wasn't either. He's like, and I figured it out. He goes, I was looking for any way for this crap to not be real. And I'll tell you why, and why he was looking for that. Because in between this conversation he had with those two gentlemen across the road and what his daughter had seen that night crawling on the railroad tracks, he said there was something that came to our house, not once, but twice. And my son and two of his friends were jumping on a trampoline in the backyard. There was no fence. And they see this giant wolf-headed thing come up to the fence line where there would have been a fence, but there wasn't. It was the end of the property. We had it cleared in the back, and he goes, and we had a nice yard. And they go running inside. It was a Saturday afternoon. He's like, and my son is screaming. We saw a werewolf, Dad. We saw a werewolf. He goes outside. He goes, and this is Texas. And he says, I had a repeating rifle, and I was ready to go. I was like, where is it? Where is it? And they were begging me not to go out there. They were grabbing my shirt. Don't go out there. He said, I felt like I had to. And I told him, I said, boys, stay in the house. You want to watch through the window? Watch through the window. He goes, I go up to the tree line, and I'm thinking, there's nothing out here, right? There's nothing. I had seen ghosts, and I had seen them look like other things, but I had never in my life seen a werewolf. I didn't believe in this. I didn't think it was real. Yes, my neighbors had seen the Latuche, and so had my mother. And we talked about that on Wednesday. But Lucas told me, he says, I had no idea what I was about to witness. He said, I hear this growl. I didn't see anything. He's like, but it went through my body. He goes, and I felt like I was going to urinate myself. And I backed away slowly and then turned and ran into the house. He goes, and I had a headache for 3 days. He's like, and no matter how much Tylenol or Advil I took, it wasn't going away. He's like, and then my daughter, her second incident, she's coming home from a volleyball game. He's like, I had to work late. I had come home He's like, and I'm at the table and I'm on the phone with my mother. He's like, and I hear my daughter scream. He goes, and I'm like, that's my daughter. He's like, I run outside and she's running out into the road and getting in the car with her friends and they're driving off. He's like, and I was like, what in the hell just happened? He's like, I had put the phone down. I told my mother, I'll call you back, whatever. He says, I'm standing there in the driveway. He goes, there's only one vehicle, it's mine. My wife was with her friends. They had gone to the movies or some crap. He said that, some crap. He says, and he goes, and then I heard it growl. He's like, and I turn and I look, and something had just gone around the side of the house. He's like, curiosity got the better of me. And I walked kind of out into the road, down the driveway. He's like, and I went around and I looked. He goes, our house sat back from the road. He goes, and I walked almost to the road. I was, I wasn't going to go right around the corner of the house. He's like, and I didn't have anything on me. Not a gun, not a flashlight, nothing. He's like, and I see something sitting there on the side of the house, and then it goes around the back. And he's like, and I thought, my son and his friend are in the house. So I ran inside, and he goes, and they're just in the room playing video games. He's like, and I'm like, are y'all okay? And the kids are like, yeah, we're fine, Dad. What's going on? He goes, well, hey, y'all, let's go out into the living room. And they're like, why? We're playing a game. He goes, you know what? Play the game later. Takes him out. He says, y'all want to go get some ice cream? He's like, I'm trying to find excuses to get the hell out away from this house because there's something walking around my house. He's like, and I call my daughter. He's like, my daughter answers the phone. I'm like, where are you? Why did you run off? Why did you leave? He's like, Dad, I saw this thing. It looked like what I saw the other day at the railroad tracks. And he's like, okay, I believe you. She's like, you do? He's like, yes, I do. I believe you. I just saw something. He's like, go to your friends, stay at your friends. It's Friday night. Just stay over there. I'll come get you in the morning. He did something very brave. He took his kids to his cousins. That was his cousin's son. Took them to the cousin, told her, take care of the children. And he drove back over there to his house. And he goes, I drove to the backyard. You can drive. You don't have to be in the driveway. He's like, I drove around the back. He's like, I have a Jeep. Sits up kind of high. And I looked. He's like, and it's open. It's an open air vehicle. I could be,
Grabbed.
Werewolf turds.
Yeah.
And you could get grabbed. He's sitting there in this vehicle. He's like, Wolf, this is what he called me. He said, Wolf, I was scared to death, but I was so angry. My anger was overriding my fear. He's like, this thing is harassing my family. It's harassing my children. I am so upset. I am not going to take this crap, dude. He goes, I went and got down by the river guy to talk to my kids about drugs, and I'm in complete denial about all this shit. And I grew up in a house. He goes, like I had already told you, because he had told me from the beginning. At least a dozen incidents with spirits in the house, ghosts and demons. He said, dude, I see this blob-like thing on the side of the house. It looks like a shadow, and I'm there. He goes, and I have my rifle out, and I'm like, I'm going to get you with this 30-30. You better pull your ass away from my house. And he's like, I'm talking to this thing like it's a human. He goes, and I saw it stand up. He goes, and I saw it come out, and then the back porch light hit its face. He's like, dude, he goes, I know that I had all the blood just drained out of it was down to my feet. I could just feel it. I had no blood in me. I was just like, ugh. He's like, I knew that gun right there wasn't going to do anything. And this thing spoke. He said, it didn't talk with its mouth. It talked into my mind and asked me what I was going to do. He goes, and I had no answer for it. He's like, and then it did something even more diabolical. He said, the damn thing laughed at me. It laughed. It literally laughed at me. Like, yeah, okay. He's like, and I told him at this point now, this is the moment of truth right here. This is what you've been waiting for. This is what I was waiting for. And I said, Lucas, let me ask you this question. I said, what do you think it was? His definitive answer to me, he goes, it was a freaking werewolf. This thing was a human being. He goes, 100%, that was a human being that had changed into this thing. He's like, I don't know how. I can't prove it. He goes, but I think it was evil. It was an evil thing. He's like, and I said, was it maybe it had a spiritual element to it? He goes, damn right it did. He's like, but it was a human playing with stuff, doing things that it should never have been doing. He's like, and I don't know what this thing was wanting with my family, but it wasn't good. I said, did you pray? He goes, I was praying to myself. I was praying to God, not out loud. He said, this thing didn't care. It just slunk back into the shadows and then it was gone. He said, I saw it cross the road, go by the neighbors and go into the woods. He's like, I was standing there. He goes, and I didn't realize it. I was holding my breath. He goes, and then I started to breathe. He's like, and I was like, he goes, and it was like I had sucked in all this air. He goes, do you know what that's like? I said, yes, I do. I do. Out of fear, you're standing there and you're holding your breath. I went through it in the haunted house I lived in when I was younger. I went through it as a kid. I had fear. You almost black out. A lot of fear. It's very palpable. Yeah, thank you for posting that, Madeline. If you feel so inclined to donate, then we appreciate it. We are some broke-ass people right now. I'm not going to lie. Yep. Damn it, Leviathan. Why are you not helping us? Have pity. You hear the cough, folks? Come on, I need money for medicine. Okay? Can't afford the devil's lettuce. Oh, damn. It's like I'm playing cards with my brother's kids. So, anyways, just kidding. But what happened to this guy? He said, I thought I was having a mental breakdown, a nervous breakdown. I don't know what it is. He goes, I go into the back door of the house. He's like, and I sat at the table and he goes, and I did something really stupid. He goes, I went and got some whiskey. He goes, that whiskey, it sat there for 2 years. I hadn't touched it. I told my wife I was done drinking. And I did shot after shot and then I prayed. He's like, do you think that's wrong? I said, yeah, but at the same time, I don't blame you. You're a human being. And he started kind of beating himself up. I said, dude, there's nothing. I said, I saw one of these things when I was 15. I said, to this day, I think about it, like what I could have done. You go over all these different things. Me and my friend Daniel have talked about it a million times. What could we have done something differently? Sure. He could have not ran off and left me.
Yeah, you're not going to be on your A game of decision making when you see something like that,
especially when you're 15.
Yeah. They count on that. So I mean, it's not like something where it's one of those situations where it's like you're in the worst possible scenario, and they are doing they're in their best element because they're basically just ambush predators who prey on the fact that you don't know what the heck is going on and you're terrified, and they feed on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you are in that situation, you're in the whirlwind. You're not making the best decisions, folks. I know that. I know I didn't. My friend ran off. He told my wife that at your brother's graduation. Anthony.
Yeah. He
still sounds like he's not happy about his decision. And I tell him, I'm like, you were 15. I was 15. What 15-year-olds are making these great decisions? Thank you for that donation, Marlo. We appreciate that. I don't know any kids that are really making sound decisions. And I told him something. I said, let me tell you something, Luke. I said, your daughter, she's 15 years old. She saw it twice. I said, I couldn't handle seeing it one time. That kid saw it twice, and now you saw it. Right? But then it gets worse. It did. After this, about a week or two goes by, and then his son comes into their bedroom at 11 o'clock at night. He goes, we're sitting there watching TV in bed. We're about to go to sleep. And we hear bang, bang. My son is jiggling the door handle. We got in the habit of locking the door so the kids will just march in. He's not a little bitty kid, but he's not an older kid either. He's, you know, he's not even a teenager yet. He's 11 years old. This is an 11-year-old kid. And he's crying and screaming for his dad. He's not his mom. He said he was crying for me. He wanted dad. He needed somebody. No offense. He goes, nothing against my wife. He's like, but this kid wanted somebody to protect him. That's what the kids do. They go to the dad whenever they want the protection. When they're like, Mom, I love you, and you're good for hugging and kissing and cuddling, but I need something to stop this thing before it hurts me. I don't even know if Dad's up to the challenge. Might want to call Grandpa and some uncles. He said, that's what this kid was doing. He goes, my brother, Justin, he grew up. He was the tough one. He's the tough uncle. He's the one everybody, he did MMA, whatever. And we actually know, we have some mutuals. We have some friends together. He works out, I believe he's working out at one of the places up in Round Rock's MMA gym. He still works out up there. Guy's in his mid-30s, still tough as nails. He said, he's like, call Uncle Justin. He goes, I'm not going to lie. I was a little offended. I'm like, well, I'm here. He goes, yes, but you're going to need Grandpa, and you're going to need Uncle Justin, and probably your friend Dustin, too. He's pretty tough. Yeah, and then my friend's dad, call him. He was in the Marines. And he's like wanting to go across the street and get the neighbors and get their brother that's living there. Because he was a Marine, too. So he tells his kid, he says, calm down. What is it? He goes, there's a werewolf. I saw it again. I saw it. Like when we were jumping on the trampoline. Remember, Dad, I told you we saw the head of this thing. He's like, yes, I did. I remember you told me that. I looked. Yeah. He goes, well, it's by my window. It is by my window. He goes, our AC had gone out. Right? Summertime in Texas, he goes, I didn't waste no time. I got 3 window units real quick, put them in all our bedrooms. I said, we're going to do this until we can get the money to fix the AC. He goes, it'll happen on payday, but not right now. A couple weeks, you'll be fine. It was an expensive fix. He's like, because something tore up our air conditioning unit. Now, I asked him this question. I did make sure. And I said, are you sure it wasn't just some guy that came and tried? He goes, no. He's like, I used to leave our door open all the time, the garage. He goes, we had a shed back there. I didn't even lock it up. He goes, and I had tools. I had all kinds of stuff. He goes, our neighbors, we were so cool. He would come over and grab tools and stuff, and I would borrow stuff from him. He's like, I never bought a weed whacker. I had his. I had Tim's weed whacker, and I use it all the time. I just be like, Tim, you got my ratchets. Can I use your weed whacker? Yeah, it's that kind of thing. The neighbors across the street had a riding lawnmower. Everybody used it. We were cool with everybody. He's like, shoot, man, my neighbor used my car a couple times. He's like, hey, my wife took my car and the keys. Can I use your truck? You know, he goes, and it was either the Jeep or the truck. I said, go ahead. He's like, we were like that in that neighborhood. It was cool. Nobody came through there and did anything without anybody seeing it. He's like, but nobody was seeing this thing at the same time. This thing had like this intelligence about it. He's like, and it was driving me crazy. He goes, and I know this thing tore up my air conditioning unit. He goes, I showed my neighbors. I knew they didn't do it. And nobody came into the neighborhood and did it. There was no crime there, hardly at all. He said, this thing used claws. He got really loud when he told me this. And I said, Lucas. And Luke, no offense, but I said, hey, quiet. I'm your friend. He goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I get emotional. I get angry. I said, no, you do. This thing ripped open his air conditioning unit. Tore it apart, tore it up. He's like, I didn't think of it at the time. I'm like, why did it do this? You know why? Because we went and put window units in. That's why I think it's human. It was calculated. He's like, because he's like, I was in the backyard. I was leaning on the trampoline talking to my wife, who was actually jumping. Kids went inside. He's like, wife sits on the edge of the trampoline. We have a talk right there by the woods. And I told her, I said, man, we're broke as hell right now. I hope nothing happens. Very next day, the air conditioning's torn up. You folks, this is what's happening to people. This happens to people. This isn't like people like, oh, this couldn't happen to me. This is too crazy. No, dude, it does. And it has. And it could. People deal with these things all the time. Whether it's these werewolves or Bigfoot or like me and Nick were talking about, Wendigos, rakes, whatever, these things, they appear. They don't give you a time frame. They don't call you up and they're like, hey, yeah, hey, I'm your friendly neighborhood Wendigo. Well, I'm not really friendly. I'm actually a cannibal. But I'm going to be in your neighborhood on the, let me look at the schedule here, the 12th to the 16th. Yeah, I know your life's really messed up. And they're doing a lot of construction over here in this area. So there's going to be a big detour too, and a lot of things are happening. Taxes are due. But in consideration of all that, I'm going to give you a few days grace. I'm going to, instead of coming on the 10th, I'm going to let you go till the 12th. And then I'm going to suddenly vanish on the 16th. So be prepared. Okay? Okay. Keep pets inside. All right. Goodbye. Then you're like, hey, Wendigo's coming. Good thing they have that call service. He just gave me the heads up. He's actually a nice guy.
I think their customer support is so well.
He's a demonic cannibal. You know? Oh, well, what are you going to do? So, honey, 12th through the 16th. Okay? Pets inside. Kids ain't playing out there. All right? We got to be rootin' tootin' inside. Scratching, screaming out in the walls outside. Don't react. Don't want them to get you. All right, guys?
Of course.
Yeah.
Paula says when the Wendigo calls, I'm getting the flamethrower. Call Fuego from Hernandez Ranch.
Safety first.
They were not built on a sacred site, though. That is a good point, though, Evan. That is a good point. No, they were not built on a sacred site. I looked into it. There's nothing native there. So what happened? His son is in his room playing video games. He hears a thud against the wall. He goes, and then right there before his eyes, you know how the window unit, it doesn't fit like the whole window. So they have like these little accordion things on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how his looked, but that's how ours did out there at the ranch. But he said that it has these things on the side. He didn't say the accordion, but he said there were these little whatever. This thing puts a hand, starts to move it, lifts up the window. The air conditioning unit falls. He's like, and this thing sticks his head in and just stares right at his kid. He runs and he is just absolutely frantic. He's like, my son was running in circles. I've seen the little guy do it before. He's like, but he's not a little guy anymore. He's not, he's not big, but he's, not in the age where he flips out and panics like that. He goes, the last time I saw him act like that, we were at Schlitterbahn. And if you don't know what that is, it's the largest water park in the world. It's located in New Braunfels. It's about an hour, 20-minute drive from Round Rock. He said, dude, depending on the traffic, he said, dude, it was unbelievable. My son was just spinning like a top. He's like, my wife, I look over, she's got tears in her eyes. He's like, my daughter comes out of her room and she's like, what's going on? I'm on the phone. I'm trying to study. And he's like, hang up the phone. Call the police. He's like, for the third time that month, the police were called to my neighborhood for this being. He's like, I didn't call them before because I knew. What was I going to tell them? He's like, the one night that I saw it, I called them. They came out. I told them it was a prowler. They looked. They didn't see anything. There were no footprints. There was nothing. It hadn't rained, so it wasn't anything like that. He's like, and what do? I'm calling the police. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I something was trying to get into my son's room. Police come. The one cop, he tells him, he says, yeah, we've been out here 3 times this month. 3 weeks into the month. Thank you, Evan, for that donation. Greatly appreciate it. 3 times. He said, your one neighbor, they started laughing to themselves. They were like, your one neighbor said it was a werewolf. He goes, yeah, imagine that. He said, I stared at them hardcore, didn't blink. He's like, and then they were like, kind of looking at me, and then one of them just kind of starts nervously talking. He's like, well, what do you think this was? He looks at me, he goes, and I look at them, and I told him, I said, a werewolf. The cops look at each other, and then they kind of they look at him, and they're like, well, they're not real. He goes, yeah, tell that to my son. I don't know which one of my neighbors called. He's like, I'm not going to pry. He's like, and the other neighbor probably told you it was what? He goes, oh, it was a prowler, right? Yeah, because that's what this is. That's what this is, a prowler? No, it's not. He's like, in the one cop, he goes, you look like one of the 3 Stooges. I'm not even going to say which one. He's like, I just told him, I said, look, little pumpkin pie haircutted weirdo. And I asked him, that's his exact words. I said, did you call him that? He goes, hell no, but I thought it. He's like, but I just looked at this guy and I was like, who cut this dude's hair?
That's a curly.
You can go back and arrest this guy. No, that would be Mo probably, or maybe Shem. I don't know. Maybe Larry.
They all have bad haircuts, so.
There's a particular YouTuber that he looks like Danny DeVito as the Penguin. He's like, I'm the Joker. No, you're the Penguin. Or you're one of the 3 Stooges. He's got hair right here, and he always wears a cap. Really attacking me for my hair, aren't you? You're jealous. No grays. It's not right, is it? It's not fair. You got the little pumpkin pie haircut going on. You got those glasses so thick that they look like the bottoms of a Coke. I know. You're short, fat little man, right? With the black teeth. You're always wearing a ball cap. People, do they know what you look like without it? Stop deceiving people. Stop lying. You'll feel better about yourself, right? Get some people to tell you some stories, some encounters. You can do it, little fella. And stop focusing on me. I'm taken. I'm married. And stop talking about my wife all the time. It's just weird. Okay? All right? You can do it. Tell your stories. Your granny. Your granny had some stories. Right? Anyways, I don't give a shit what you do. Get back to this. So what he said was very like when he started pouring his heart out, it was very poignant, and it was very, and he says, look, man, he goes, my life was crumbling because of this thing. He's like, it was, dude. He goes, I was falling asleep at work. I'd go on break and I couldn't stay awake. He's like, my one neighbor, she lived down the road. She worked at another place where they sold furniture. And she was doing the same thing. She was falling asleep on the freaking furniture. Can you imagine walking through IKEA and you're like, oh, whatever, Lydia is asleep on the furniture again. Right? You're working there. That's what's going on. Your coworker's asleep. Or if you're a customer, you're walking through IKEA and you're like, hey, honey, what do you think of this? This color, why is this woman asleep up here? What is she doing? She's snoring. I will complain to the manager. The manager's like, it's having some werewolf problems.
Seen this before.
I would like that bed. Obviously, it's phenomenal.
This is the worst case of werewolfism coming to their neighborhood I've ever seen. This is the only case, but it is also the worst, so I'm not lying. So what happens to these people? There's no werewolf help hotline. There's no skinwalker group that you can join, right? At least, at that time they have them all over Facebook now, but they're not like therapy groups. There's not people on TV coming out with commercials. Are you being hunted and haunted by a werewolf? Are your kids having their air conditioning units snatched out of their windows? Well, if so, you should call 555. Yeah, nobody's doing that. Nobody's got, because nobody's even believing you. The police come and they're laughing. Well, can you take a look around my house? I mean, it is your job. What, excuse me? Huh? Well, right now, my job is eating these donuts. Well, maybe you should do your job. And shut up. Chip, chop, chip. Werewolves. I see the cops in my hometown. They're always sleeping out there by the loop. Until the loop guru comes one day. Can you imagine that? You're out there sleeping.
They probably wake up and go right back to sleep.
Yeah, well, let's say something happens that doesn't allow for that. Let's say like the car goes up a little bit and falls back down. I've heard of that, especially with security. Them two, them and cops both. Let's take a nap. What could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Well, you could get caught by a person. Yeah, maybe you get in trouble. Or you could get yanked out of your car. And if they did take somebody, they're not going to think it's a werewolf that did it, right? Because they don't exist. Isn't that correct? These people who claim that they are into all this and they laugh about it themselves. They're not going to have somebody come on the show and tell you that a werewolf went, rampaging through their neighborhood. It doesn't fit the narrative. That and people don't believe that they're real. It's a Dogman. What the F is a Dogman? I don't even know what that is. I still to this day I don't know what that is. I don't recognize that because I don't believe that. I believe that they exist, but they don't. Most of them don't look like dogs, do they? So he asked me a question along those lines. We were talking, and he says, "Let me ask you a question." He goes, "This was halfway through all of it." He said, "What do you think this is?" I said, "No, there's a lot of things it could be." He said, "Do you think it's a Dogman?" And didn't know. He thought there was really a difference. I said, "No, there's not really." I told him, I said, there are skinwalkers, werewolves, and dogmen, and we don't know if they're even different. We don't. Nobody really does. All of it is really speculation. It's eyewitness after eyewitness reports because you can't really take pictures of these things, can you? Because when people try, they come out looking weird or they're blurry. We know a lot about reports that come in of government agencies possibly messing with, tampering with, genetics, possible military intervention. We don't know. We really don't. What we do is we talk about it and we speculate all day long and we postulate on the theories, but we really don't know. Good night, Paul. Get in touch with me, Paul. I'd like to have you on as a guest. Paranormal Paul, he's got a channel. Constantinos says most likely Nephilim. Yeah, maybe. Lee Tracker E says all hybrids of original predators, doesn't matter what we call them, no good ones. So as far as there being no good ones, there wasn't any in this story, in this encounter. So I asked him, I said, what did you do? He said, what I did. He goes, I got together with a couple of my neighbors who were willing to talk about it and admitted that they had seen it too. He goes, I went damn door to door. He goes, and we went to the church. We didn't all go to the same church, but we went to a church. He's like, and you know what we did? We got holy water. He's like, we got silver. He goes, and we melted it down. I was like, whoa. I assume he was talking about silver bullets, and I asked him, and he confirmed it. He said, yes. I said, well, you know, they don't tumble quickies. I know they don't. We shot a couple. He's like, but we had to do something. So he goes, we weren't even Catholic. Nobody in the neighborhood was Catholic. But we were up there getting holy water. He's like, we talked to a priest, a preacher. We talked to a guidance counselor that had claimed that they believed in the paranormal. They didn't really believe in werewolves, but he's like, if a lechuza can exist in the same neighborhood, whatever, why not a wolf, werewolf, whatever? He's like, and then we had to come to the realization. He goes, this is when things got really real. He's like, the priest that we talked to. He used to live in Brazil. He's like, and the priest sat down and he's like, he goes, do you guys have ever heard, so he talks, of a thing called the Lobozan? He said, what is that? He said, this thing exists in where I'm from. It's a man who changes into a beast. He goes, we said the rosary together. He goes, we did all this stuff. He's like, my cousin, she was Catholic. She married a Catholic man. And he made a joke about the Irish. He's like, her husband's Irish. They had like 5 kids, 5 kids, Catholic. 5 kids, Catholic. You got to roll. You got to make sure you put that in there, or they'll think that your mom just really, likes to do it. Like, oh, okay, she's Catholic. Okay, now I get it. They're not just, Just kidding, folks. That's probably the case. But anyways, he's like, no, because we went through all of this, the whole shebang. He's like, and if I hadn't lived through it, I wouldn't believe it. And I told him, I said, you're not the first person that's told me this kind of stuff, and you won't be the last. Thank you for those gifts of the donations, Alan Garcia. I think, Alan, weren't you asking about Nick Valente's email address? He sent an email to us, Anthony. Can you email him Nick's information?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening? He said, we decided to take shifts. He goes, us and the neighbors across the way, and then the ones down the end of the drive. It was coming from in those woods back in there, we think. It was listening to us. But we also had to come to the realization that this thing may be one of us. He's like, what better way to hide than to be in the flock? He's like, the priest asked a very important question. It says, do you believe in this creature? And they said, seeing is believing. He said, good. Now, how do you know that it's not one of you? He said, because the Lobozan is a man. There is no Dogman down there. They don't even know what the hell that is. But they have the Lobozan, the Wolfman. And a Wolfman is a man, thus the name. And what it does is it stalks neighbors, family, whatever. It shows up, and then it just as quickly disappears after creating havoc and causing problems. That's what they do. They're demons, basically. They're people who've given themselves over to the dark side. Now, you can call them skinwalkers or you can call them werewolves, but they pretty much do the same thing. And it is definitely evil. These people had to face one another. Now, the priest gave them an idea. He says, if you melt that silver down and you pour it over each other's heads, whoever screams is probably being hurt by it. That means that it's probably the werewolf.
Naturally.
So they did it, and they put out one of them's eyes. And he was definitely the one. They took care of him. They took him out, and it was it. Over.
That sounds like it solved the problem.
That solved the problem. That was it. It had to be the neighbor. He wasn't strong from being in the Marines. He was strong because he was the Lobozon. I'm joking, folks. That's a joke. I'm not making light of this man's situation because it was serious at the time. He wanted to get rid of whatever this was. So they said prayers, and they hung crosses everywhere. He said, dude, our houses looked like we were religious fanatics. He's like, and I was okay. I didn't care. He goes, I told my daughter, put this up in the room, and she was like, okay. He goes, usually at that age, anything I said, she didn't want to do it. If I said, hey, I'm going to get you a Coach purse, she's going to be like, ew, I don't want a Coach purse from you. Like, I'll go steal one. He's like, but yeah, no, she was okay. Because my whole family, minus my wife, oddly enough, had seen it, and she was the one that was the big believer in all this. She didn't balk at all. He goes, I owe a lot to her. She was not afraid. He's like, but I knew she was. Just wasn't showing it. He's like, something made a noise outside. She was the first one out the door trying to confront it. He goes, and I kept having to grab her. You're 5'2". Stop. No Coach, LT only. Louis Vuitton. That's it, right? We used to guard that place too, right?
I want Chanel.
I hated that place.
He's like, and so I became suspicious of everybody. He goes, there was this one guy who was the father of one of the girls that had seen this thing. He's like, and we were talking on the phone and everything. And we got really suspicious of one of his neighbors across the tracks. He had caught this guy looking in through his fence a couple times. He's like, he goes, when you're upstairs on the top floor of his house, he goes, you could see the neighbor. He also saw his neighbor crawling around on all fours one day. Got really suspicious of this guy. The neighbor came outside one day, basically eating a raw steak in front of him. The guy was exceptionally hairy. Sounds like he's something, right? Sounds like the guy that could be doing it. He's like, but then he's doing it again. My neighbor, he's crawling around on all fours. He goes, I go over there, I go upstairs, I look out the window. He's cleaning his pool. He's crawling around on all fours. He's like, so I look at this guy and I said, is this what the neighbor was doing the other day? He goes, something similar to that. Yeah. He says, do you see that he's got the net? And he's like, dude, we were so crazy and deranged. It was like The Burbs. You ever seen that movie? I told him that. He didn't say that, but I said, hey, you ever seen The Burbs with Tom Hanks? Right? Isn't it The Burbs? Mm-hmm. It's crazy. They think that the neighbors are just, these whatever. Check it out. It's a good movie. But then it turns out, I'm not going to do spoiler alert. I'm not going to spoil you. Just check the movie. It's a funny one. I'm not really a Hanks fan, but, that's whatever. And I told him about it. And then he watched the movie with his wife and they laughed, because they look back on that time and they're like, yeah, it was, we thought that it was, we were whatever. They still live there. His old neighborhood got demolished, got taken over by tract housing, but where he lives, he's like, they built right up to him, but he didn't sell out. A couple of the neighbors are still there. The thing is, if you were this guy, what would you have done? Because he asked me that question. He put me on the spot. And I said, I don't know. I said, but the thing is, you don't know until it happens to you. I said, I did not have a family when I was 15 years old, when I saw what I saw. And I didn't have all the pressures of doing and dealing with what you're dealing with. I said, bless you. May God bless you for this. You went through this, but you did what you had to do. Now, I told him there are some serious researchers in this field that don't go out in the field without holy water, silver. In fact, we had one on Friday. Mr. Nick Valente is that way. He covers all the bases, flashbang grenades and all. He told his friend, he said, look, I don't think he's a werewolf. And he's really not that hairy. He's no more hairy than we are. He's like, we've been to Slitterbot together. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're not the, hairless wonders. Okay. He's like, that guy? So what? He was eating a steak that was rare. So what? He's like, but we had become madmen. And I told him, I was like, you ever seen Bram Stoker's Dracula? He says, we've all become God's madmen. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They were becoming that way. Seeing evil everywhere and just taking it too far. Now, if you were fighting Dracula, I could say, hey, that dude could do all kinds of crap. He could become a werewolf at will. That guy was evil. You have to do that. But are you fighting Dracula? Has anybody been hurt? No, not yet. But you could, so I can understand. He didn't want his kids going over to people's houses because they would go outside and play. He didn't want that happening. He refused to let his daughter practice over. He's like, it's in the middle of a residential area over there. He's like, but this thing had been seen at the park too. He's like, I wasn't taking any chances with my children or my wife. He's like, and my wife, when she came home, she would call me and I'd go outside. And we weren't getting out of the vehicles until we were all together. It's actually the IDP now, Chris, International Dogman Project. North American Dogman Project is still headed by my friend Jody Cook. They split up. So I thought about it too, and I thought, what would I do if I was him and I had to go through this nightmare? You have a collective, fortunately for you. You have the luxury of having other people having seen it and they were involved, willing to help. But the problem was, he goes, my neighbors started watching me. He said, it was crazy. He goes, I come home and my neighbors are looking out the window at me. Like they're suspicious of me. He's like, and I went to the neighbors, not the ones right next door, but the ones a little further down the road. And I said, hey, I noticed you at the end of the road. You're like always outside. Is there something you're concerned with? Why are you walking by my house? He's like, I saw you taking pictures the other day. What are you doing? It's a couple. They look at each other and they're like, well, there's been a lot of weird things happen in the neighborhood lately. We're just trying to keep an eye on everybody and blah, blah, blah. He goes, what do you think? I'm a freaking monster? You think I'm a werewolf? What do you think? He goes, werewolf? Nobody said that. Nervously laughing. Oh, that's not real. Well, really? He said, because A, it is real, and B, you're looking at me like I'm this guy. He's like, I assure you, I'm not shape-shifting. And they're like, well, we didn't say you were. They kept talking. And he's like, I don't have time for this. He's like, but I understand their apprehension because I'm feeling the same way. I'm feeling like they could be werewolves. What are they doing? Are they going to eat my family? He's like, I don't know what the hell's going on. But I'm scared to death. The police, zero help. He's like, and then I'm at the bar and I meet a paramedic and we hit it off. We start talking, me and my wife are talking to him and his wife and they're all there. We're playing darts and everything. He's like, and it comes up because my wife blurts it out. He's like, I couldn't believe it. He goes, but they didn't balk. They said that they knew some people who had seen something. And this guy was a paramedic, and he said that there was a guy claiming that he got attacked by a dog, tore his leg up really bad. He's like, and then when they're at the hospital, the guy grabs his arm and says, hey, if you get bit by a werewolf, do you become one? He goes, I pulled my arm away. He said, and this guy, he looks at this guy and he says, are you kidding me? He says, I don't know what bit me, but it wasn't a dog. And he's like, I am not into the paranormal. I'm not into the, he starts trying to tell this guy. He's like, I don't know, sir. I'm taking you to the hospital. He said, we saw these people a few times. We'd see them around, he goes, and so we stopped going to the bar because he goes, that was a really bad idea. He goes, we just told ourselves, hey, no more drinking. He's like, and these people actually ended up going to our church for a while. We got to know them pretty well. He said, and that guy told that story. It always freaked him out. Something attacked a guy. And the guy was terrified that he was going to become a werewolf. Do you understand? That really happened. This guy really did that. I got sent something the other day by Truth, from Impromptu Truth.
Mm-hmm.
And he says something to me. He says, dude, check this out. And I haven't even read the whole article, but it's this, the police raided a werewolf hangout. Like, what in the hell is that?
Huh?
Yeah, I kid you not, dude. Like I said, I haven't even had a chance to really, read through the whole thing, look at whatever. But the Truth, from an Impromptu Truth. We're going to be recording with him soon. Another friend of mine in this field messages me. He's an author, and he says, look at this. The actual police report that was filled out and given to him. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if I should be talking about it yet or not. He's going to write about it. But this woman, she had a police report. 3 people reported this to a county sheriff that the thing stood up on its hind legs and tried to get into their barn where they had a wounded donkey because it was attacked by what was first called a coyote, but the bite marks were way too big and it tore it up pretty bad. It's a child's pet, a sweet little donkey. It wasn't a mean donkey, whatever. It was a baby, and it was almost killed by this thing. The thing was going to finish it off. It stood up on its hind legs and started to tear apart the barn to get into it. It was shot. According to this, a few days later, a man went into the hospital with an infected gunshot wound. This happened in Arkansas. And a friend of mine fielded this report. I saw the police report. If you think this is all the work of fiction or fantasy, I assure you, I'm not Stephen King. I don't have those skills. I wish I did. I'd be really well off. But I can tell you this. I do know how to retell what is told to me, and I can make it feel really riveting because those people went through it. It needs to be. It needs to stir your soul. Because I personally believe that this is real. These are happening. These things are happening. I don't think these people are pulling the wool over my eyes. And no matter how jealous these other punks are, they're punks. They don't care about delivering real to you. What they care about is lining their pockets somehow. Well, let me tell you something, buddies. You're not going to make a lot of money doing this. You're not going to make a lot of money if you're real. You're not going to sell a bazillion t-shirts and become rich. It doesn't happen. You could have a little bit of integrity, and you could, try being real. Well, that's above you, isn't it? You don't even aspire to that. Instead, they spend their time causing problems and attacking me and my people who are trying to do this and be real. Now, is it possible that this man was just putting me on and he was just a really good storyteller? Good story. I don't say good storyteller, but good story. He had a good story. And he just wanted to make me tell it? Or is it a chance that this guy is just a normal guy who went through something extraordinary, and it's not as rare as you would think. Now, a small percentage of the world will actually see these things and go through these things. But what we need is for more people to believe, so that that percentage of the world that goes through this doesn't have to suffer and be mocked and made fun of because of what happened to them. Because when you don't believe in these monsters and these things that are happening, the powers that be that pull the strings can continue to do what they do and turn them loose on us. Because not all of these are government sponsored black ops, whatever, but I do believe they're tampering with this. Then they make you let your guard down because it can't possibly be real, right? The best trick that the devil ever played, you know. Oh, I don't believe in that. So what are you going to do when you encounter something and nobody wants to believe you? That's the scary thing, and it's scary enough dealing with it. But what happens when you are all alone and everybody is just taking a big dump on you? You're a crazy person. I went through it. I had people tell me, you know what, you're just a kid. And when you get older, you'll know better. Werewolves don't exist, sweetie. One of my grandmother's friends told me that. And I told her, I was like, they're as real as you're sitting in front of me. What I saw was real. It wasn't a hologram. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. Like I've said before, there was a Bigfoot researcher and he says, what you saw was a Bigfoot. No, I didn't. And I don't need to send you a report about it either. Because no matter what happens, you're not going to believe me. Another guy told me he didn't believe in Dogman. I said, well, I don't know about Dogman, but I know what I saw. I look like a werewolf. I don't have the luxury of not believing anymore. I don't have those options. For me to turn around and say, oh, I didn't see that, would be a lie. And I would be telling myself a lie. My friend who saw it, he's now a preacher. He has no vested interest in telling you a lie. There are people who live their whole lives after having seen these things, and they still don't believe that what they saw. No, I know a guy who literally lives out there by the Hernandez Ranch. He's worked out there with them. He was mending a fence, and he still doesn't believe what he saw. There were two guys with him who believed, but not him. He's like that thief on the cross. He tells Jesus, hey, if you're the Son of God, why don't you free yourself and us too? Jesus could have called down 10 legions and wiped out the earth, but he didn't do that, did he? He accepted death at the hands of unworthy people, the Pharisees and their Romans friends that, well, they weren't friends, but the Romans that they used to enact their horrible punishment, because Jesus told them that they didn't know the true God. They know not who his Father was. And he told them, he said, your father is not my father. The priests. He told them, the Hebrew priests, they weren't really Hebrew, they were Judea. He says, your father is not my father. Your father is Shaitan, and you're the synagogue of Shaitan. My father, he is the one most high, and I'm his son. And still to this day, people believe the opposite. The people that you're following, they are the children of Shaitan. That's who they are. That's what they do. If you think for a second they would have a problem bringing a Nephilim or a descendant of a Nephilim and turning it into the days of Noah, well, you're just as blind and ignorant as anybody in this world. And you spend your days meddling and trifling with people who do really believe in the one true living God, the Father of Christ. And you attack God's servants with hate and anger in your heart. We know man harbors larceny in their hearts. We know that. We do. And then you take it so far that you deceive people, masquerading as decent, God-fearing people that you're not, and you know you're not. You're reprobates. You're of that synagogue of Satan. And you attack those people who are trying to bring the word, the truth, and the light. You would as soon as kill as look at the servants of God. There was another thief on the cross next to Christ, and he says, we did something to deserve this. This man did not. This man is innocent, and he's going to die here with us. And he looks at Jesus, and he says, surely you are the Son of God. Remember me when you enter in your kingdom. And Christ says, okay. Just as Longinus, the Roman, who was sent out by one of the centurion praetors, and he said, hey, go out there and make sure that the people on Calvary are. So he goes up Calvary Hill with his spear, probably grumbling to himself, I got to go do this. I got to be the guy that does this. This sucks. This man is already gone. Now, it's no wonder that Jesus died quickly. They had beat him half to death and then made him carry his own cross. But then he couldn't do it, so they had to have another person help him. Everyone that touched anything of Jesus, when the blood hit Longinus, he fell down to his knees, removed his helmet. This is part of apocryphals. This is part of the Gospels. Even the King James Version, who's got it's very limited, but it says it. He says this, right? The true Bible will tell you. This man, surely this is the Son of God. All it took was some of Jesus' blood and water to hit this man, and he immediately knew. My eyes are opened. Those people had the luxury of being there and seeing the Son of God being crucified by the sons of man. Not only did you kill one of your own, you killed the Son of God. So these devils, they can still walk the earth and do what they do in the physical fleshly form and terrorize the children of God. And people don't believe. They'll see it and they don't believe it. The Pharisees looked at Jesus dying on the cross and they smiled. We got him. We did it. And when Jesus died, boom, the temple broke. Because maybe, just maybe, the people that were writing these books were evil. And they said, God said this, and God said that, and God wants me to have this and have that, and God wants all this gold, and he wants virgins, and he wants meat. But not you. You don't get those things, just us, because these are the people you're putting your faith and trust in. And there's a lesser version of that now that runs around and goes against everybody. You didn't see what you saw. We've been conditioning you since you were a child that you didn't see what you saw. You claim to know us by our works, but we've done a good job of hiding. We've proselytized really hard to you. You shouldn't believe in these things. All of the work we've done to make you believe a certain narrative, all the work we've done to cancel you, to bring you to your knees, and yet you still show up and you still do what you do. What does it take? What does it take to stop a man of God? Or better yet, what does it take to go against God? But still say that we're not, to still say that we are the good guys. Do you ever once stop and think maybe, just maybe, you're not the good guys because you're trying to stop someone who is a go-between between what these people have seen and what they are relaying to me, and I'm relaying it to you? Does it ever cross your mind that maybe you should stop meddling with things? Leave people alone. And most of all, and this is the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, repent. Does it ever cross your mind that either A, you're crazy, or B, you're evil, or C, you're both, and that you need some sort of help? I'm not telling you to go to a therapist or to seek out a psychiatrist. You probably need those. But there's a therapist named Jesus Christ, and he's the best one I've ever had. And if you pray to him in earnest, he'll hear you. If you pray to God through Christ, that is the most effective way to achieve what you want. Now, you can't go to God and ask him to curse people or to tear them up or do bad things to them, because that is not who God is. And the problem with you getting giddy over the Old Testament, like you guys love so much, is that you identify with that. But I'm telling you that some of that was written, well, all of it was written by man, but some of it isn't God at all. Some of that was written by people who wanted to influence you. Why did they choose the code of Deuteronomy over the code of Christ? The church made that decision for you before you were born because it gave them the best opportunity to have a leg up. It allowed for genocide, slavery, adultery, and every type of sin that you can imagine, because they say that God did these things. But it visited sin through God. That never happened because God is without flaws or sins, and he doesn't need human characteristics. You know what needs these human characteristics? Devils, demons, werewolves. Because they're human, folks, whether you want to admit it or not. They're humanoid creatures that walk around on two legs, and they do evil. The devil is here to steal, kill, and destroy. That's what he does. And he visits it upon you through evil spirits and people who make deals with him. They literally change. And I sit up here and I know people mock me behind my back. They do it all the time. They say things, all kinds of crazy. So this guy's lost his mind. I haven't lost my mind. My mind is very much intact. I've never been more clear in my mind, ever. And I'm telling you right now, I know what's real. And these beings still walk the earth. Do you know why these black op agencies, why they want these beings? Do you know they want the DNA? I'm telling you the truth. They want their DNA. They need vessels, folks. These spiritual encryptids, what they are, apesius, man of God. He's going on Jason Bland's show. He's probably already on there right now. I'm about to end, and I'm going over there to Jason's. I hope you join me, because Abe is going to talk about this stuff. They're cryptids, and they use spiritual nature, their spiritual nature, to do what they do. They want them so that they can revive these beings, so that they can make war with you, the children of God, and they can make war with God. You think I'm joking? That's what I truly believe. I do believe we're in the last days. Not the last days of the earth, but we're coming to the end of an era, the end of an age. One where Jesus is going to return, because every holy book on earth says it in one way or another. The gospel speak the truth, folks. Jesus says that there is one way, one way through him to get through his Father. To get through him, you have to go through him to get to God. The one true God. There is no other way. You can be whatever religion you want. You may not go to hell, but you're not going to go to be with God, the one true God. So that's what's happening. We are at war, folks, a spiritual war, and it's been brought to my doorstep. I didn't start it and I didn't bring it, but it's there. I'm not going to back down from it. You are not going to run me off. I promise you, you're not going to run me off. What happened with this guy? He prayed and he prayed and he prayed and he stayed vigilant. This creature. Now, it wasn't a big dramatic ending. It never returned. Because guess what? His whole neighborhood worked together. And this mysteriously, this thing appeared. It left. And I asked him this question. I said this to him. Lucas, has anything happened to you since? And he said, yes. He's like, years later, I was driving down Ronald Reagan Boulevard. I know where that's at. It's over there by where you used to live, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
He says, and I see this thing run across the road, chasing a deer. He's like, and I'm with my brother. And my brother's like, whoa, what is that? And we saw it. I said, do you think it had anything to do with the one that you says, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It looked similar, but not the same. He's like, but they definitely exist. He's like, I think, though, once your eyes are open, this is what he said, his words. I didn't lead him into this. He said, once your eyes are open, he's like, they're open.
Well, they can't be closed. So there's just no way. Like, there's no way for you to, like, because it would have to be a change of your mindset. It's not just of like actual just your eyes. It's like you got to change how you view the world now. And like once you're open to this, and once you become forced, because it's what it really is you're forced into it, you're in it. I mean, that's all there is to it. And that's the sad truth of it. And I think some people like do a better job of ignoring it, but like I don't believe that there's a way for you to just suddenly stop. I think it's just more like how much you really filter out.
Yeah, it's like you're past the point of no return.
Yeah.
You know, they're just not going back.
I think that I told him this. I said, living in that house that you lived in when you were a kid, something that could turn a bowl of cereal upside down, that was the beginning. But it culminated with a whole lot of other stuff that we'll talk about one day. And he thinks that demon that was in that house was vampiric. There's a reason why. So I told him, I said, that's amazing. And I said, but you dealt with a type of vampire and a type of werewolf. And he goes, I hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, in my life, I did. I dealt with that. They were a spiritual thing. He's like, the werewolf thing was more physical to me. He's like, but I told him, I said, it's all grounded in the spirit. Just like the people that'll attack you, they'll come against you, and they'll do it even in God's name. In the name of Christ, they'll come at you. And I'll tell you this. Thank you for that donation, Alan. Appreciate it. It doesn't matter. They'll come at you in droves. You have to be strong, and you have to have faith. Give it to God. God's the true judge, not your peers. Not these reprobates that do and say what they do. They're of no consequence. They're never going to stop us. You may disrupt us a little bit. You may cause a little bit of strife here and there. You can make up all the baloney you want in the world. Make it up and eat it. Who cares? Shove it in your ears. Say things about people's wives. I know the truth, and that's all that matters to me. You're not causing fights between me and my wife with all your nonsense and your crazy dang bullcrap. It doesn't happen. It's not going to, and you're never going to disrupt me. Because, see, I know now, 100%, because of you, because of what you've done, I know I'm on the right track. Because only someone who's attacked this hard, all that did was affirm to me. And I've had several people reach out to me, and thank goodness they did. Friends of mine from this community who told me their only reason they're attacking you like this is because you're on the right track. If you were just being ignored, that's not how it works.
It's like in video games. Like, you know, you're going the right path because you're running into new enemies. I mean, it's the same with these people.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
They attack so hard because you're going the right path. The devil has no reason to sway you from the wrong path.
Yeah. So in a weird way, these people have, it's a blessing in a way. And I'll be honest, it really is. Because I would have wavered. If they would have stopped attacking us when we quit, I would have stayed gone. Their attacks brought me back. And it was like a sign that day with Abe, it was time. Time to come back. If you wanted me to stay gone, you should have left me alone. But I think you were moved to do it. You couldn't help it. And now I feel like I have a purpose to never stop. Never. To tell people's encounters and to bring people to where they need to be. And your attacks and everything you've done have facilitated that. It's shown me the true way. It's shown me that I am correct. And to not stop. 2 reasons. 1, because if you stop, they win. And 2, because they're wrong. And you let them win, you're wrong for doing it. You can't stop your destiny. And those that try to impede upon your destiny are wrong and evil. And they'll be dealt with. Just be careful, folks, when you're dealing with monsters that you don't become one yourself. Because if you turn to their tactics and you do the things that they do, like fake personas and all that other kind of bullcrap that they do, that they instrument to deceive people, you're turning to their ways.
You're not becoming better than them. You're just no better than them.
It's come up too. Like, I've had friends that, not you guys, but I've had friends that have told me, not people that I'm just friend, they're not relatives or anything, but they've told me, why don't you do what they do? I'm never going to do what they do. Never. And I don't care who thinks they're somebody that needs to be questioning me or telling me whatever. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. I know the truth, and that's what matters to me. And you should all think about that too. Think about what you want for your future. I don't mean here on earth. I mean in the next life. Do you want to do this again? Do you like it here? Because this isn't it. It's a struggle, and it's strife constantly. But you can't take yourself out because that's wrong. God doesn't want that for you. You don't have that right. You want a better life for yourself, then you build one. Nobody's going to hand it to you. I told my boys, I said, nobody's going to bring us a check from the prize patrol. And what is it, Ed McMahon? Or they say he never was with the Publishers Clearinghouse, but he was. They're not going to come from the Publishers Clearinghouse. Hey, I'm Ed McMahon. Here's a check. You don't live your life hoping that one day you win the lottery. You live your life knowing that you won't. And that there's no stampede, a cavalry is going to come and save you. Okay. The one that's going to save you died on the cross. He's the one that's going to save you. He's the only one that can. I had somebody tell me one time, in fact, it was somebody close to you, Tony, but he told me, he says, no man can forgive you of your sins and no man can save you. And I said, Jesus Christ wasn't just a man. He was the Son of God. This individual argued with me about it. And I said, it doesn't matter what you say or think. You've spent your entire life running away from that. Tried every religion but the true one. And there's only one religion, really, that's real. And it's not Christianity. It is to follow Christ. Because the problem is that people are following people instead of Jesus and the teachings of Christ. That's the problem. You shouldn't put your faith in people, not even me or anybody else for that matter. Because we are all fallible. We are all just people. We're men and women. And you don't have any reason to put your faith in a person. They will always fail you. Some of these people that don't like me, they don't like me because I've sinned. They don't like me because I'm flawed. Newsflash, we all sin. We all fall. We all fail. Nobody's perfect. The only perfect being, the only pure being was Jesus. That's it. One. And you only got that one. I'm not him. People have accused me of saying that I am like Jesus. I never said that. That's a lie too. That's another lie they made up, just like the Leviathan. Never, none of that. No. We should all strive to be like Jesus, and we all carry a cross in our lives. It's a little one compared to Jesus' cross, but you carry it too. It is the proverbial your cross to bear. We all have one. We all suffer. We all sin. We all make mistakes. But instead of judging people and pointing out and running around calling the world about your sins, what they should do is be forgiving you for your sins. You should forgive me for my sins, just as I have forgiven you. Every day, these people come up with a new slander and a new evil. They talk about my wife. They talk about my boys. They talk about me. Talk about my friends, my family. They make up lies. They spin the most horrible. They are so just mentally and spiritually and physically unhealthy. It's unreal. They're the most unhealthy people I've ever seen. They'll probably live forever, though, because evil balances and then keeps itself, they keep that balance here on earth. They can't overtake good, but they can try to keep up with it. So that what they do is they just keep on, keeping their evil alive. You ever notice that? Evil people just live forever.
Oh, yeah.
They live forever. And they're so unhealthy. You look at them and they look like a Sith Lord. They look like Palpatine. They're like, hey.
Yeah.
And they're still going. They don't die. They do not go away.
Yeah, my grandpa used to have a saying in Spanish, but it translated to that the bad weeds never die.
Mm-hmm.
Just live. But, I mean,
that's also like
that could also be viewed as a form of punishment.
I mean, that's what I see it as.
Because they're just the most miserable, unhappy people. I mean, like on the outside, it's like, oh, this person has everything. They can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, and they never seem to pay for it. They never seem to be held accountable. But the fact is, you don't really know that person's life, that they could be in agony just all the time, in private. I mean, when they go home and go to bed at night, you don't know what is really plaguing that person mentally and spiritually, and they still don't learn, and they still choose to be just rotten, evil, hateful people,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like their punishment is to just live and live and live and live a life that they hate, and then die, and then keep being punished on the other side.
And it's a life that they created for themselves.
Yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something.
Yeah, it never stops.
Mm-hmm.
It never stops. It's a Ferris wheel that they just get. Pharisee.
I mean, if you don't allow yourself to repent, then like you're just basically being burdened by all that sin, and it's literally just staining your soul. I mean, so like I think it literally shows physically on them, and you can see that they don't look well, and it's like you said, but I think, like you said, that is their punishment. I think, like, as you get older and you get closer to, reaching the other side and actually reaching either your punishment or, your deserved paradise, like being kept from it or being like locked in this, what we understand as a flesh suit becomes more and more of a curse.
Like there was someone in our family who had just lived and lived and lived forever, and I think he just passed recently, and he was universally acknowledged by everyone in our family as like just one of the worst human beings alive. He hurt a lot of people and did a lot of terrible things, but never went to jail for it, never got punished for it. But then like we saw him, I don't know, maybe a few years before he passed, and he was just like, his mind was gone. He was shriveled up, and he was living with his daughter and son-in-law, but like he was like a burden to them. They really didn't want him around. It's like nobody wanted this guy around for any reason. I mean, and it was sad because it's like it's such a waste. It's such a waste of life. It's like you live into your 90s and you're still just rotten, and no one wants you around.
I think it's one of the beauties of the world too, is that it's not up for us to judge, so we don't have to worry about it. When you meet someone who is rotten and just bad like that, you don't have to deal with them or really interact with them, because it's not up for you to judge how to punish them or what they deserve, because that they're going to get what they deserve because someone else isn't, or someone who has more authority or has more say is going to take care of that for you. So all you have to do is live your life correctly. And I think me and Wolf were talking yesterday while we were doing the patrol, and we were saying like people, I think in their, like when they're too so quick to judge someone that they end up becoming just like them. And
Yeah.
So it's like the big curse is like, you act so holy, but you end up being the same as the people you hate. And I think like that's what's nice about being able to just, okay, you're a bad person and you're going to get what you deserve. And it's none of my business. I wish that you would do good, but it's not up to me. It's up to you.
One of the things I told this guy, Lucas, and I'll repeat it here. I told him, I said, in some ways you're fortunate because the monster that you faced, everybody saw it,
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, everybody was running around trying to figure out who could be the werewolf if it was a werewolf. But the truth is, I mean, like he was facing something that was an external. He wasn't battling with himself so much as he was, because he was grounded in his faith. He knew right from wrong, and he was a believer in Christ, and that gave him protection. I told him, I said, the lack of fear that you had, he goes, no, I was afraid. I said, yeah, but you weren't as afraid as some people. And I said, I think your faith in Christ, because he said that when he was a child, he would pray over his brother and sister that those shadow beings wouldn't hurt them. Because many a night they had woke up with like something trying to choke them or smother them. And he said, dude, because I couldn't take it. I had to stay up every night till midnight to make sure that my brother and sister would go to sleep. He goes, and my mother's, she had all this, problems with lupus, whatever. She recently passed. My condolences to you for that. But she suffered a lot. And he, when he was a child, he goes, it was like my mother willed herself to live so that we could get old enough and be on our own and established. And then she went. And he said that my mom and my dad both were my rocks when this was going on. I said, you had that going for you. I said, I never could have called my parents. No, I never could. I couldn't talk to them about things going on in my life. It was just very banal conversation that never went anywhere. It was like, well, like with my dad, it's like football or, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't really talk about anything else. Our politics weren't even lined up until recently. I still don't know exactly where they're at 100%,
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You face what you face. You deal with what you deal with. And I told him, I said, there'll always be those that don't believe, that won't follow. But you'll be fine. I said, you have a very good foundation. I said, you're not even 40 years old. And you've done pretty good. Now, he had kids young when he was real young. He thought it was going to ruin his life. And now he wouldn't trade it for the world. I ended up raising children that weren't mine. I could have kids, you know, I know that. That wasn't the issue. The issue was I never had time because I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. But I think if I would have had my own children, I wouldn't have helped raise you guys. Maybe, maybe not. I turned around and I looked at myself and I'm like, dang, I'm 40 years old, you know, and all I've done is work. Sucks. At least though, when I die, you can say, this guy's not lazy. Put that on my headstone. And when these people accuse me, they're like, oh, he's a lazy guy. No, I'm not. And one guy trying to say I slept all day. You're a liar. You're a liar from the bottom of your black heart. I can't believe you were a cop. I cannot. That amazes me. That means anybody could be one. If you could do it, anybody can. You got to be one of the most evil people I've ever met in my life. You lie like somebody drinks water. You just lie. I mean, it's unreal. And you lie about people. You say horrible things. And then and you're disloyal. They attacked your friend. If that was still my friend, and even though he's not my friend, I'll still defend him. Because he said a lot of horrible, mean, awful things about me and my family, but he didn't say them about you. No, in fact, he defended you at every turn and has continued to defend you, and you do not defend him at all. They have torn that man apart over there, accused him of worshiping Baphomet. And you sit up there babbling about me, and you don't even lift a finger to help him. How on God's green earth can you sit there and be who you are? I don't understand how you go to sleep at night. And you claim that I ruined your reputation? I didn't ruin your reputation, sir. You did that to yourself. In my opinion, you're one of the creepiest, weirdest people I've ever met in my life. And you have a sickness in your soul. And you teamed up with a man who is one of the worst reprobates that I've ever seen. And I have been in the underworld down on 6th Street in the worst possible, where people don't walk, they slither like snakes. God delivered me from that. He could deliver you too, if you really believed in the one true living God, the Father of Christ, and renounced your evil ways and repented. You could do that, but I'm afraid you won't, because the devil has snake bit your heart, all of you. And the other one, when you're out there driving around doing what you do late at night, don't you ever stop and think what a piece of crap you are for doing what you did? Do you ever stop and think that? Or is it just a focus on me? Getting rid of me is your one single-minded focus. That is it. See, when you start attacking what you think are monsters because you've deemed them that, what you need to do is stop and look at yourself and think, have I become a monster myself? See, because one of the parts of that guy's encounters really stuck with me. When Lucas told me that he went over there to his friend's house and he saw the guy next door, the guy they were convinced he was a werewolf, the guy was on all fours. He was cleaning his pool. Then the guy's wife said he came over eating a rare steak. He's not even that hairy. You got to weigh those things. Because a group of people were being infiltrated by evil people. Like, all it takes is a handful of them, just a little handful of them, and they can infiltrate an entire group of people and infect their minds with evil and sickness. And the lies get more outrageous and more egregious and more ridiculous and more over the top until one of them flips out and says, you know what, I'm going to slay this evil beast. And instead of praying about it, they set out to kill this person. You're on the verge of doing something evil. In fact, y'all's talking, it may have saved my life, folks. I'm being honest, that I had the flu. I was angry because I had the flu and I couldn't go to San Antonio. And you know what, though? I thought about it and I was like, that may have just saved my life. Because we don't know what they were going to do. They were talking about Judgment Day and doing all this stuff. Who knows what they were planning? This man, this crazy roofer, you know what you did. You showed up at a dinner where you knew I was going to be. You knew I was going to be there. After you had told several people that you were going to shoot me if you needed to defend yourself. When I never said anything about you. Somebody lied to you apparently and said that or at least you claim they did. I don't know if they did or not. And told you that I said I was going to hurt you. I never said that. I never said those words. That is an absolute lie. Where's the proof in this? You've never produced not one shred of proof of the things that you claim. And you run around saying all these things because you want someone to do something to me. Or you want to do it yourselves. I truly, honestly believe, and I stand here before God and I say this, dude, that you had ideas of what you were going to try and do to me at that dinner. You know you were. Now, whether the police believe it or not, I don't know. You were one of them, so who knows what kind of lies you spun. But you reached out to people like my mortgage broker and my business partner and told them outlandish, crazy things. Do you think that's normal behavior? Because you want to kill me. I know you do. Because you've said this to people. One of them's in the chat. She tried to convince you that there was nothing that you needed to do. And you kept saying, are you trying to tell me that I need to do this to this man? No, nobody's trying to tell you that because you did that to multiple people. And you were trying to do something to me. You went into another chat on another channel and started ranting and raving and then started talking about being a gun owner and blah, blah, blah. Everybody in this community is well aware that you are capable of defending yourself, that you were once a lawman, as you claim, and that you own guns. But when you start talking like that, you cross a line, buddy. I forgive you. I do. I really do, because I think you're sick. I think something's wrong with you. And y'all have gotten together in this cabal. It's like I said, those people in that cabal attack your friend, who used to be my friend. That's your responsibility to step up and do something, say something. Stop these people from saying those things about your friend. Is that your friend or not? But I know that guy. And that guy's pride is his problem. That's his downfall. And that guy is going to continue to back you up because he's your friend. You bragged about how you came between us. And you said it took some convincing, but you got it done. Good for you. You took my friend away. You turned him into one of my worst enemies. You poisoned his heart. Y'all told lies. You spun lies. And then he joined in your little escapades and lies and slander. And even now, I forgive you. But your sins are going to be laid bare. You can make up all the bull crap in the world about me, but what I'm saying about you is the absolute truth, and you know it. And I know it. And it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart. You claimed that you were my number one fan. Now you've turned into one of my most dangerous enemies. Because have you ever seen the movie Misery? Trust me, it's for the best. No, it's not. How about you just leave me the hell alone, old man, and go and live your life? You still got some lead in your pencil, leave us alone, and you can go and just go be a normal person, if that's even possible for you. Leave the grudges at the door. And go away and stop this horrible smear campaign. And you up there in Oklahoma doing what you do, why don't you just go to your court dates and shut up and stop causing everybody problems before I write a letter myself? There is no proof in anything you say or do. And you go around mass reporting my channel. You want to shut me down so bad. Do you think that that's going to help you, boy? You think calling me boy is going to help you? It's not. You're wicked, and everything you do is wicked. All of your evil ways, it's nothing but wicked vileness, dude. You think that teaming up with these other reprobates is going to make you special? It's just going to make more of you. That's all they are. It's just other mores of you. Yeah, I am, Lucas. Hey, what's up, buddy? I'm leaving. I'm going. Pick some people. If your name is in green, do what you got to do.
If you haven't won before, go ahead and
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or whatever, however it goes.
you know how it goes.
So Marlo Martin.
Marlo said he won. Never won. Whatever. Send us your name, your address, your
Williams,
handle,
second one.
and the date. Toasty Waffle says never won. Fine.
And we got Lucas Williams.
Marlo.
One.
Lucas, okay. Yeah, I know you have one. Okay. All right. So y'all three are the winners for tonight. You get hoodies.
Make sure you send
While
your shirt
supplies
size,
last.
an address, and your YouTube handle to Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com.
So that's it for tonight, folks. Meet us over at Paranormal Soup. I'm heading straight over there right now. I'm just going to bounce off here and then just go right over there. Put my headphones in so I can join the chat and see what's going on. See what Abe's talking about.
And if you want to hop over there to watch, guys, the link to join that or to watch that is pinned at the top of the chat. Okay, so if you just click there, once this live stream ends, you click there and you'll immediately be over there at Jason Bland's Paranormal Soup.
All right, guys. The last thing I'm going to say is this. You need to forgive. You need to learn to love and learn to forgive. There's a lot of evil and hate going on in the world. No matter what these people do, I forgive them. But it emboldens them to do more. But I'm going to lay your sins bare. You keep on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do an entire rumble about it if you keep it up. I'll lay it all out there. Refresh everybody's memory. Or you could just stop and leave us alone. Because making up more lies and more slander doesn't make you right. It just makes you more of a liar. You could be like the people in this episode we talked about and just pray and forgive. That's what they did. He's like, when we let go of all of our anger and our hate and our sin, he goes, I hated my wife's sister. He's like, we had to sit there as a family and with our family and friends. He goes, and we talked. He's like, and we all came to the conclusion there was one thing. This is why I say this to the last. One of the things that Luke told me, he said, dude, I had to figure out what my sin was. And it was my grudge holding, lack of forgiveness. I hated my wife's sister. I didn't mind her brother. He's like, or her other sister, but I hated her one sister. She was terrible. He's like, and a lot of other people hated her too. She's a damn sociopath. And I told him, I said, I get it. But your job is to forgive because Jesus told us to. And a lot of these people go around talking about Jesus and Yahweh, whatever. They don't believe any of it. Because if they did, they wouldn't say and do the things that they do. They'd let go of the butthurtness and they would just go on with their lives. Instead of cursing me every day of your life, waking up and figuring out a way to try to hurt me, focus on your jobs. Well, you don't have jobs. Focus on one of them says he does. I've never seen any proof of it, but you might. You could get one. Walmart hires greeters. Whatever you do, find a hobby. Collect cards or stamps or something. I don't know. Figure something out. You don't have to be my friend. I don't want to be your friend. You know that. But you don't have to try to kill me either. You could go on with your life and stop making all these outlandish accusations. I hope and I pray that you're not being serious about all this mess. And I never threatened you. Stop saying that. I haven't threatened any of you. You keep claiming that. You keep saying all this crazy stuff's happening. Nobody's messing with you. Nobody in my camp. It's unbelievable, man. Go on with your life. If you listen to every word, which I'm sure you did, you probably heard me. I love you because I'm told that I have to. And unlike you, I would still try to help you if you were falling off a cliff because I'm not the bad guy. You're angry and you're bitter and you think that people are making fun of you. They are because you're of the crazy damn things you're saying. It's getting more and more ridiculous and more over the top. And do you not understand how people's minds work? They're not going to think that that's normal behavior. You should never be obsessed with someone like this. It's wrong. I don't want to end up being whacked because of some crazy damn obsession. But now I got to live my life. hoping that it doesn't happen, folks. Pray for me, please. And pray for these people that they'll turn away from their vile ways, because they are vile. And what you're doing is wrong. There comes a time in every grown person's life they have to stop and look at themselves and say, man, am I going off the cliff? Am I going off the rails? Am I wrong? You got to judge yourself before the world does it for you, or God steps in and does it. And may God help you if he gets upset with you. If he turns his back on you, remember you did it first. And when Jesus says, I never knew you, that means he didn't know who you were. Because once Jesus knows you, he doesn't forget you. Was there a time when you were at peace and you had Christ in your heart? I don't know. But get back there fast. You're not promised a tomorrow. I'm not. No one else is. I've had a lot of health issues since this stuff began. I don't know if you guys are doing black magic. I'm not going to sit up here and say that y'all are, because I don't know, but I know your listeners might. I don't know. I don't know what you do or what you don't do. That's not a coincidence, because you're focusing so much anger and negativity and hate against me. I don't even know if you really even know why at this point. Because one person says a lie, another person says a lie, another person says a lie, or they mix half truths with lies. That's another little formula you use. And then you spout out stuff, and then everybody's just got all this hate and anger in their heart. Can you imagine, folks, for a minute, having a group that's dedicated to just hating someone and their family? Think about that. That in of itself is deranged. That is sick. Then if you're in that group and your friend who turned his back on your enemy that you swore up and down against, he gets attacked in that group. He followed you into this wickedness. You don't lift a finger to help that man. That is a special kind of evil right there. That is a special kind of evil that I can't even comprehend, because I'm a loyal person. I don't do that. I woke up to that man attacking me, accusing me of being this guy, whatever, that y'all made up. You know you did. You know you were behind that whole circus. I don't know what part he played in that and believing it or not, whether he believed it or not, or maybe he was involved in the making of it. I don't know. But I know that he's been loyal to you. He hasn't been loyal to me, but he was loyal to you. And you have sat back and watched him be torn apart. That part right there, I just shake my head. I don't feel bad for him, because I feel bad for him, yeah, but I don't, because he knew what he was doing. But boy, I feel bad that he picked the wrong side. And I don't feel bad at the same time. It's weird, because I think that's what he deserves. But at the same time, you know, you're his friend, supposedly. But you're not really anybody's friend, are you? Do you even know how effing crazy you really are? Woody Harrelson? Do you? You don't, do you? You think you're normal being this way? I'm sure your family thinks it too, don't they? They think you're normal. You're just as normal as right as the rain. You crazy, weird-ass dude. Pray for me, guys, because I don't want to be killed by these people. For what? Thank you for that donation, Toei. We appreciate it. I'm going over now to the other channel. Talk about whatever they're talking about. I'll see you.